April, getting rid of all reliable electricity generation systems. No connection whatsoever.
Nope, no green energy BS were going on there. So yeah, it's all good.
They should
that, of course,
set Greta Thunberg on fire and put her in a never.
What?
Well, I'm sure many people would like that, but
that's not what I meant. I was trying to make a log joke, and I went, okay, I'm going into bad places.
Oh, I thought you were making a witch joke, but okay.
Which witch? The Wicked Witch?
Keep introducing people. I'm being a.
I was just gonna say, as Paul interrupts my introductions all the time, we have Paul Chato coming from Canada and another Canadian with us, Mr. Script Doctor. How you doing?
I'm doing okay. Glad to be here.
We also have Scribe Light with us. How you doing, Scribe?
Doing all right. Now I'm awaiting Greta Thunderbolts or something to happen.
Greta Thunderbolts? Oh, no. We also have Culture Casino with us. How you doing?
I'm great. I'm good.
And when you think of Culture Casino, you think of BO. That's right. What? Box office, not body odor.
Oh.
The fact that you thought I meant body odor makes me wonder and worried about ever meeting you. Yeah. Chris is here as well. Chris Brawley from Bleeding Fool. How you doing?
Hello. Big weekend. Glad to be here. Happy Monday, everybody.
Happy Monday to you. So with that, let's get rolling because we have a couple super chats and we also have some news to get into. We got Cannon Barnes sending in a very generous $10 this morning already. It says, good morning, afternoon, and or evening to everyone on Midnight's Edge. We've got some interesting news from the Thunderbolts, first weekend box office, to Trump's tariffs on foreign production on Hollywood. How right you are, sir. And then SFX 314 Sabretooth Raptor sending in another 10 smackaroos saying, coming next summer, Logarine or Logreen. 2 times the Logan and 2 times the Wolverine. The Ultimate Warrior. The Hulk trembles before the Loga Greener Logreen. The next blockbuster pre-order soon. Yes, this was me fumbling last night between trying to say Logan and the Wolverine. So I called him Logarine.
I think Logarine sounds good. We need a Logarine. If not now, when?
I wash my mouth out every morning with Logarine.
Logarine.
And it makes me
I have heard Wolverine called worse things. It's one thing that I can never forget. Like I have the very first Norwegian reprint of Hulk 180 and 81 where he first appeared. And that obviously is translated into Norwegian, right? And his Norwegian name is completely ridiculous because the translator evidently didn't know what the Wolverine was. He thought it was like the female wolf. So he translated the name into basically the Wolfess. That's what's in the Norwegian first edition of Wolverine. So, yeah, 2 times.
He's Lady Wolf.
Wow.
Pretty much, yeah. But that's what he's saying when he appears. He's like coming. I am the Lady Wolf. It's not even a joke.
Hear me roar. Kolekioki sends in $1.99 and says, awesome shit list yesterday, Tom. Well, thank you. I'm glad you guys enjoyed it. Grimzilla sends in 5 and says, feels like these actors were owed a movie deal and they threw them all together in Thunderbolts, or for better or worse. They didn't deserve this. I think he's saying that the actors didn't deserve this. Luckily for them, I don't think they're going to suffer it all. But we'll get into that when we get into the box office. But first, Dr. Longdongler sending in a thumbs up for $1.99 to remind you to pound that thumbs up if you haven't already as we get started here this morning. And with that, that's a good place for us to get into the Thunderdolts because it is Monday, and every Monday we do something here on Midnight's Edge, and that is the box office news with Culture Casino.
Hey, that's me. When you think of culture, you think of box office. Okay, fair enough. Speaking of box office, this weekend was as predicted for the most part, except for the extraordinary hold for the third week of Sinners. Second week, I should say, of hold. I still don't understand why this is hanging in there the way it is, but I'm glad because for a film that had a $90 million budget, this really needed to hang on. And since it's, best appeal location was the U.S. and not much of an international distribution, it needs to make money here. So at 33 million in second place, it did it again, only down 28%. But Thunderbolts is the story of the day, I guess, because, you know, it just opened to 76 million. I think it's just a little under 76 million. But is this where we figured this was end up? Is this the conversation that we were going to have no matter what? Is that this would come in at the very low third set of projections?
Yeah, we were talking about 80 million was what we predicted.
It did better than I thought it would.
Yeah, it did.
It did right in line with what I thought it would. Because keep in mind, just to do some comparisons, Black Widow opened to 80 million, and that was when the Marvel brand wasn't as damaged, but it was instantly post lockdowns. And here you have Thunderbolt, which is Black Widow Part 2, opening less than that. And it also opened just above the Eternals, one of the worst Marvel movies ever made. But what's stunning to me is that it opened smack dab in the middle of both of those two, both of which were 2021 post-lockdown releases. And this opens in pretty much the same range 4 years later, no lockdown excuse in sight.
You keep using Black Widow, but I have to stop you because I have to keep reminding you. And I was going to do this yesterday, but I said to hell with it, and I just let the video slide. People keep forgetting. You cannot compare apples to apples with this in Black Widow. Black Widow was released day and date on Disney Plus.
Yeah, with
so
Premier
if you stop
Access.
and think about it, Black Widow probably made a lot more money than this did.
Yep.
Opening weekend, because that was just the box office opening weekend you're talking about, Andre. That doesn't even count the premium, the price that they charged on. We have no idea what they made off of Disney Plus. Do we, Culture? I don't think we ever got those numbers.
No, we got nothing. Nothing that I can remember anyway.
Because people forget that was released day and date on streaming. I watched it the day it came out in my house in 4K in Dolby Atmos with Dolby Vision.
Bragger.
Well, I'm just saying, I didn't have to go to a theater to see it. That was my point. People keep forgetting that movie came out on streaming at the same time.
Well, that's why there was a big hullabaloo when that's why
she sued. Yeah,
right. I mean, that's why she's not in any more movies, Marvel movies.
So that more apples to apples would just be the Eternals, Andre, and
or Shang-Chi.
Or Shang-Chi.
Yeah, look, I mean, there were a lot of losers released altogether, including the Eternals. But if you look at this, that is the best comp, is the Eternals, as far as the box office and box office run.
Deliato asked a good question. Does Disney Plus actually make money? Well, according to Parrot Analytics, yes, it makes all the monies. Did you see what they claimed that somehow, what was it? Andor has earned them over $30 million.
300 million.
Like, where are you getting this number from? Are you asking Zack Snyder or what? Like,
well, you don't need to ask him. All you have to do is ask the very same Disney accountants that decided, how can we make it so that Captain America Brave New World doesn't lose so much? Oh, yeah, that's right. Of course, we have 300 million in earnings by selling it to Disney Plus. So just shift money from one account to the other. Boom, now it made money. It has to be something like that, where they sell it to themselves.
Yeah, and that's probably the only way that they can do it, to try to show it actually did all right. But when you look at the actual performance of this film, you start to scratch your head. First of all, it opened up to the preview access on Thursday, starting at 2 p.m. in the various time zones that it opened. That gave it an extended day, extended window. It also went into far more theaters than any of the other mentioned properties we just talked about. It went into 4,330. You have 11.5 million in earnings on that Thursday, which means, since these two are added together to make Friday numbers, it only made $20 million on Friday. It didn't accelerate into the weekend, and that's why it looks like Saturday took a dive. It didn't really, but because of the fact that they continue to do this with the Thursday, Friday numbers, you end up with it looking like Saturday fell off 22%. But it didn't. It actually was higher by $4 million.
Ooh,
then you take
still not great though.
Yeah, it's just insane. So when I look at these numbers now, especially on the weekends, you can already see a pattern. It made $2,200 per screen, and then they claim 7,200 a screen, but that's not really what it
You
made.
gotta actually reduce the amount.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so it's like, okay, stop lying. I mean, this would have been the number that you should have been comfortable with for, a release on the Thursday, and that the Friday number should look a lot the same. Yeah. It's just it's incredibly frustrating. But look, and when you do compare it against something like Eternals, this isn't doing well. If you compare it to just a couple months ago when they released a Brave New WEF. Yeah. That film did $12 million better in its domestic open.
Yeah, but here's the thing with this, and this is what's funny is, we're talking about this like it's a huge failure. The bigger failure was Captain America. This making $76 million is not bad for a movie about a bunch of characters that nobody knows. The problem is how much it cost, because this is probably playing what this would be a pretty decent movie if it was a mid-budget film right now. $76 million for an opening.
Yeah,
that's great.
Yep.
If it would only cost $80 million to make.
But
that's the problem.
Yeah, I was surprised that Variety actually mentioned the $100 million or so for marketing, in addition to the $180 million production budget. They normally try not even to mention that. Oh yeah, in addition to the number everyone's batting around, there's all this marketing and promotion budget that we need to deal with.
Well, I think they're tired of hearing it from us.
Yeah, maybe so.
Because we always point out they're lying to you because this costs this amount of money in marketing. And you know what? They're missing about $40 million of marketing money, but set that aside. At least they're trying to be intellectually honest about this business.
A little more than usual. Yeah. So it's got to earn $450 or so to break even.
But see, the published budgets for these are never accurate. That's what they budgeted going into the production. Sure. So if they publish a budget of $180 million for Thunderbolts, they publish a budget of $180 million for Captain America: Brave New World, which no one thinks was anywhere close to what that cost with how many times they reshot that. There is a big difference there. But
do you guys think the new Avengers rebranding was part of the plan the entire time, or is that just like a last minute effort to try to get more eyeballs on it?
No,
why would anyone care?
You think so? Okay.
Why would anyone care?
Yeah, no one. I don't think it would have moved the needle at all either way.
Yeah, well, let's take a quick look at the comparisons between. Maybe not
numbers. Everyone's going there now.
Yeah. Yeah, and anyway,
in over 200 more theaters than
exactly
an American movie.
Yeah, exactly, and that's kind of the point I wanted to get to. Is it with Captain America only opening in 41? I think the embarrassment falls on Thunderbolts because it's 200 more theaters.
Yeah,
that's a lot, And I don't know. I just, in looking at it and its early performance and the early opening and everything else, my expectations for this film are to finish exactly where we thought it would, under $400 million at most.
Yeah.
Oh, easily.
We did one of the things that was going around on the weekend that I noticed was it was being touted as the 12th highest global debut of any Marvel movie out of the 37 Marvel movies. So this morning we did a quick breakdown of, let's adjust those numbers
for inflation.
Yeah. And it came in at 27 out of 35 movies. So not exactly a barn burner. Only the Eternals, the Marvels, Shang-Chi, and some of the early MCU movies opened at a lower number. So
that's pretty embarrassing.
Yeah.
But and what's even more embarrassing is that this probably is creatively the best MCU project, certainly this year.
Yeah.
Well, it's been a long time since we've had a good one. I mean, the reason there's other comparisons to things like Black Widow is because it got an A- cinema score, which is something I talk about in the video I dropped this morning. And that's great and all. And it does indicate that they legitimately told a story from beginning to end for a change without a lot of confusing things there, because they cut this thing to pieces, reshot it, and patchworked it together. But it also had enough there that I've had conversations with people in my audience. I've had conversations with people that are my friends about whether or not this is a good movie at all.
Yeah.
And first of all, I like having that conversation. That's the one I want to have. I don't want to be talking about how this is going to be a dismal failure, massive flop, pick your adjective, whatever. It's more fun when, Paul and I can go back and forth on, story elements and stuff. That's what Friday was all about. And it's in again, the fact that my audience seems to be split on this film between they enjoyed the film or they didn't enjoy the film tells me a lot. It's that this is a move in the right direction, but I think it's way too late.
Yeah. Well, Shang-Chi had a cinema score of A.
Really?
Yeah.
It was a masterpiece.
What?
I was told.
There's a ton of the Marvel movies have an A or at least an A minus. Even Black Widow had an A.
You guys forget that Eternals saved lives.
That's true.
Whose?
That's true.
Whose? It didn't save careers.
I just mentioned that The Sinners is still doing well because they're promoting it as a Tyler Perry movie.
Oh, I think it's the hidden, unmentionable, can I say cunnilingus that goes on throughout the movie. There's a lot of that. And I think once people hear about it word of mouth, they're like, what? I got
word of mouth. But anyways,
hello.
Wow.
Well, that's better than the anilingus that was hidden throughout Eternals.
Easy now.
I don't know what Thunderbolts are going to do in the second weekend. I don't think it's going to do particularly well.
No.
But
well, what do you think would be a tolerable fall off, Paul?
50%.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Huh.
I've had quite a few people of the female persuasion commenting on my channel, saying that they really enjoyed it and then took their husbands to it. So women like struggle sessions. We all know that. So there's
that makes sense.
There.
Well, yeah, again, they've changed their audience from the men to the women.
But in this particular case, they could have done this even at the height of their powers. There's nothing wrong with doing it right. And I think part of it is the casting. We did talk about. Did they need to hoof asshole Captain America in the nuts? No, they probably didn't. I'm sure they enjoyed that in the writer's room. But notwithstanding that, I don't think they're mutually exclusive. The problem is when they do things like make Iron Man Riri, right? Those are the issues that I think most people have problems with. But Yelena is a fine lead in a movie. Maybe Black Widow would have been better. Scarlet would have been better, but then they screwed that movie up royally. So.
Well, and the problems I'm hearing from people, because I haven't seen it yet either, but the things I'm hearing from people is it's either homework the movie because they don't know who any of these people are, or why they're there, or where they're coming from, or what their relationship is. Or the other side of it, if you are aware of all this stuff and you watch these shows, I'm hearing people are saying, did they even watch the show that this person was on? Because it doesn't make any sense. It's like all the growth and things that happened during the show, like specifically Wyatt Russell's character was one that was brought up.
Yeah.
So go ahead if you want to run with that, Scribe, because that's another thing I'm hearing is a problem is that people are not liking how they're just like, they didn't even watch the shows they were in.
Yeah. Well, it's sort of like when you have a sequel to a video game and you've gone through the first video game and you've leveled up this character so much and then you have to somehow depower that character to start off in a brand new video game. Sometimes it makes sense, the rationalization they use. In this case, it didn't. They took John Walker, who was, and again, I'm talking in relative terms because Falcon and the Winter Soldier was no prize pig or anything, but in relative terms, John Walker was the best thing about that show. He had the most character development, the most interesting arc, and they treated him seriously in that show. Like I say, because he was a war veteran, he had a whole, he had to shoulder the mantle of Captain America, all this pressure to succeed and everything else. He went through all his demons. It was great. And then they take this character and they put him in this movie, and suddenly he's just this like quipping James Gunn humor meathead who gets disrespected by everybody around him and just kind of like shrugs his shoulders, goes, yeah, I guess so. And then talks about how much he's like a loser and everything else throughout the movie. It was embarrassing, honestly. They could have done something really interesting with that character, and they just completely cut him out from under his knees.
He had his moments. It was enjoyable.
Did you watch the Falcon Winter Soldier series, Paul?
The one where Falcon, what is it? Embrades? What's the word? The congressman. That one.
Yes.
Yeah, the one where he tells him to do better.
You do better, Senator.
Yes, I saw it up to that episode and then quit.
Oh, well, that was like the last episode.
It was. Pardon me?
That's when everyone.
That was the last episode, I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
All I know is that up to that point, I actually enjoyed it. The fight on the train, their relationship, I thought was pretty good. It started well.
Yeah, they of all the characters, I mean, the one character out of the group, aside from Bucky, John Walker had, I think, the most character development throughout his brief run on that TV show.
But it's not hard for someone who has a kind of rough edge. It's harder to be a goody two-shoes superhero. Walker's character was brilliant. It's such an enjoyable.
Oh, Wyatt Russell took material that was dog shit compared to what he was doing in Falcon and the Winter Soldier and turned it into. He was entertaining. This is the thing. I have nothing against any of the actors and what they were given and what they did with it. The actors' performances for what they were handed was fine. The representation, dare I use the word, of the individual characters as previously established was, in many cases, completely off base, and especially in Bucky's case.
The best thing Thunderbolts has going for it is there is nothing coming out next weekend, I think, that's going to really impact the top five.
Lilo and Stitch is
ironic when I don't think that Lilo and Stitch is going to be much competition for it. I mean, that's like
that's the 23rd.
Yeah, that's what I was about to say. Is Lilo and Stitch comes out in it's the third weekend it arrives for. For
next weekend is Clown in a Cornfield or something.
I mean, weird thing that might actually hit Sinners. But
what is it with Disney and liking to pile their movies on top of each other though? Because they've done this for a long time. This is not anything like more recent.
No.
And I'm reminded mainly of the year that they dropped like Solo and a Pirates of the Caribbean movie, and I think an animated film all on top of each other, and then they complained that all three flopped.
Well, when you buy Pixar, Marvel, Lucasfilm, and your own movies, it gets the calendar gets crowded. Sorry, folks.
No, it does. And here's look, there's a bigger, broader conversation here. The top three movies did what the top three movies have been doing since, the winter. They're earning all the money. The Thunderbolts is 76 million. Half of that would be Sinners. Half of that will be Minecraft. I mean, a little more than half that, or a little under than half that. But that's my point, is by the time you get to the fourth film down, The Accountant, which did decent numbers this weekend on its second weekend, 9 million. After that, it's the definite flop of this Until Dawn film, and The Amateur, which for whatever reason got no traction. So by the time you're down to the seventh movie, The King of Kings, which has been around since, a while now at 57 million, not only is this very profitable for them, but it also, you can see, we were falling off a cliff after number 5. I mean, we were already headed on the downward slope. This is going to be the same way things are going to play out till we get to Lilo and Stitch versus Mission Impossible. And then those two movies are going to suck up all the oxygen, right, Tom? Sorry about that.
Maybe, but like the other thing is they only scheduled Revenge of the Sith for a week. Now, if they hadn't had Thunderbolts coming out like this, and with the amount of money that Revenge of the Sith made last weekend, damn well they would have extended that movie for another couple weeks because they had basically like a Godzilla -1 situation. Even more money than that, really. Because, I mean, that movie made just as much as Sinners did last weekend. right now. Like, 'cause it says 33 million here, and I remember last weekend Revenge of the Sith made what, $30 million?
Yep.
So that's my point, is you dropped a movie that made a third of what your big budget superhero movie did.
Well, that just to me that just shows just how Disney did this out of obligation rather than they actually had any enthusiasm over doing it. It's like, well, it's the 20th anniversary, so we should probably re-release it. And then they didn't know what kind of a golden goose they had on their hands because they've completely discounted their library at this point.
Well, they've discounted a lot of things, to be sure.
Yeah, well, yeah. OG Star Wars in general, let's say.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. You know, and then when you look at it, I mean, and again, we always talk about it last, but I'll jump it to the front right now. There's only 38 movies in theaters right now. Many of them are retreads or, you know, whatever else. And they only earned $142 million, $142.4 million. And as we just showed, that's the top. That all that money's coming out of these films. That's it. Everything else is in the low, you know, hundreds of thousands, tens of thousands, just thousands. It's just,
oh man, yeah. And even in the top 10, you've got some that are just doing six figures.
yeah.
Snow White eked out another almost $250,000.
Yeah.
Go away.
Okay. Bye.
Talking to Snow White.
Oh, well, yeah. But they have to leave that up, right, Tom? They're trying to save face.
I would love to see the agreements that these cinemas have to sign, how long they have to keep them up there. Tom probably knows about that better than anybody, but
well, there's at least 310 theaters, Chris, that have to keep it in their theater.
You know what? You know why they're doing that? So they can have a marketing campaign that says, in theaters for 52 weeks, Snow White.
Mm-hmm.
that actually used to be something
Yes.
that they would crow about, how long it had been in theaters.
Well, the 2001 played in the same theater in Toronto for 2 solid years, I believe.
I bet that
Yeah,
was
there
a
was
much better
theaters-
experience.
Yeah, there were theaters that showed Star Wars for years, right? Like they even had an anniversary poster for the theaters that were showing it for nonstop for over a year.
Yeah.
No, I mean, as far as like Disney Snow White, I think anybody under they're way beyond any obligation. This is probably just being kept in a few theaters where they actually have enough theaters to keep a theater for Snow White.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, like a multiplex, like a 25 screen.
Yeah, that has like 25 screens and they got like 3 screens left over. It's like, well, what are you going to throw on those 3 screens? Oh, we'll throw in Snow White. Yeah, because this movie's done, dead, over the hill. But no, you're not wrong because, yeah, back in the day with the video magazines, I'd open them up and the first thing it would say at the top was, 52 weeks in the theater, $33 million in the box office.
Right.
One of the biggest hits of the year. You don't miss out on Puppet Master 3.
Puppet Master 3, that's a classic.
No, I mean, it was always like they'd always amp it up like it's, and it was really like, and then you look at the little asterisks down at the bottom and say like released in 2 theaters.
You're right. Kubrick's Puppet Master 3.
Yeah. Now I want to see that. But no, Thunderbolts is one of those things where, look, I think we've hit the road or the point in the road with comic book movies where if this movie had not cost so goddamn much money, Thunderbolts we'd be talking about how well it did, because a normal comic book movie back in the day, these movies were few and far between, and the ones that were hits were even fewer and farther between. Wow. We've been living in an era of a roughly a decade now where we've had these movies that have been overperforming and then some by leaps and bounds. Like even a movie like Guardians of the Galaxy, it should not have done as well as it did. The only reason it did as well as it did is because it was in the height of the Marvel MCU era. That's why.
Can I correct one thing there? You said even a movie like, no, you should say especially a movie like Guardians of the Galaxy, because that's the prime example. Not only did it overperform,
and that's basically what this is here, yeah.
Yeah, like most every other Marvel movie of that time, of 1 decade ago. First, you had the opening weekend projections, and then it came on a little bit more. So you kept on having to revise both the projections and the actuals further and further up over the course of the weekend. And in the end, the movies always overperformed, or almost overperformed by 20% relative to expectations. That didn't happen with this one, which is interesting.
Well, because Guardians of the Galaxy was the beneficiary of goodwill built up over good movies prior to it, whereas Thunderbolts, which is, I mean, structurally speaking, it is like Guardians of the Galaxy. You have a whole bunch of unrecognizable characters to most people. You don't know how they're going to interact, and yet it's performing like this versus Guardians of the Galaxy.
And I mean, and I would argue that the audience is more aware of brand recognition now than they ever were before. Right, because I mean, remember when the Avengers first came out, there was a lot of people going, well, where's Batman? Well, where's Superman?
Really?
Oh, yeah. Especially in a video store, trust me.
God,
some. Yeah.
And also keep in mind, there were not just some, a lot of people thought that, for instance, Batman Begins was a prequel to Tim Burton's Batman, all the way up until the release of The Dark Knight. And still, you still, to this day, have people that think that Marvel's The Incredible Hulk is a sequel to Ang Lee's Hulk, which it isn't.
And or people that don't even realize that The Incredible Hulk is part of the MCU, right? Like, so that like too. There is audience. There was more audience. My point was, there was more audience confusion back then than there is now. But this is my point: is I think even the Marvel brand itself is not worth what it used to be. People are aware of it. They know there's a difference between Marvel. They know there's a difference between DC. But at this point, they're not eating either flavor. They don't care. And maybe Superman will change that. But I'm at this point where I'm not even sure Superman's going to do very well. I've been maintaining it for a while. We've hit the end of the road when it comes to superhero movies. They are now the way of the Western. I don't know what's going to be next. But yes, we're going to have a few hits here and there in the next 10, 15 years. But it's not going to be like this again. This is it. The Marvel era is over. We had a great run of like almost 20 years, mainly about 15 years of really good films, and then the last few years have been garbage. And we got our answer. Now, how many movies was it going to take? Roughly 5. That's about what it took to get it to the point where the audience has turned it off.
If you're wondering about the budgets of these films, if you stay through the credits, one of the first things that strikes you is, oh my God, look at the number of people working and attached to this film.
Yeah.
And not that you can tell specifically which shoebox the money went into, but you're going, this is just a lot of people. And how many of them are really, really necessary, you don't know. But it's just a staggering volume of people that are attached to these superhero movies. And you can sort of go, okay, apart from the salaries of the stars of the movie, you can kind of see that money went somewhere, because that's a ton of people.
Well, it I think a lot of the money, believe it or not, goes into the effects houses. I'm sure you'll agree.
Yes.
I mean, when you have 7 different effects studios working on your project, like they did for Brave New World, you watch the credits, you're like, this effects house, this effects house, this effects, and you're like, and there's, what is that, like 30 names under each one of those effects houses? Plus, you're like, okay, so 12,000 people worked on this movie, and
don't forget, sometimes you'll get, and I don't know how Hollywood does it anymore because they're bastards with effects houses, is that there's something called panic pricing, where you're going to come in and interrupt the flow of an effects house that's in the middle of some production, and you're telling them, no, this has got to be redone, or we're taking it away from this other studio and we're giving it to you, and you only have 2 weeks to do it, you're going to get charged through the nose.
Yeah. Plus, I mean, you create a crunch, which, Jason Schreier is going to,
constant crunch
at some point.
Yeah.
And that's how effects is done. And that's how effects have been done since they've been making these films, which is why sometimes it looks terrible.
They've got to get it under control, though. I mean, they've got to get this under. There's no reason this costs more production-wise than Winter Soldier, unless it's just an accounting.
Well, here's the thing, and we've learned about this. First of all, you have certain producers and production people where they get a big chunk of the money, right? Then you have the guild aspect of it, where in the past X amount of years, especially like Paul was saying, how long credits are now. You want to know where that really started? Go back to like Lord of the Rings and stuff. because then when the guilds would get involved and they're like, not only can you can't just say that it was done by this effects house and the lead animators anymore. You have to literally list everybody who did everything down to the guy who emptied the fucking garbage can. Right? Like,
yeah, sure. And that's why there's a long credits list. Right.
And not only that, that's why it's so expensive now, because you literally have 3 people for one job every time. And it's a guild rule. It's like you can't just have one person doing the hammering now. You have to have one guy who hands the guy the hammer, the other guy who inspects the hammer, and then the guy who actually uses the hammer.
They still need to get under. I mean, even Homecoming, Spider-Man Far From Home, they cost less to make than this. So you've got to get this under control.
Yeah, it's the amount of people you got working on it. It's the amount of stars. Like, I mean, these actors need
David
to understand.
Harbour. Yeah, I know. I mean, I get it. I get it. But however they do it, they've got to get these budgets under control. It's as simple as that. This is not going to be.
Well, they kind of need to reinvent Hollywood, which will kind of take us into our next topic in a while. Go ahead, Culture.
No, just to add one last thing to that. Stop making post-credit scenes. You save a lot of money on the budget.
That's the only thing from the Thunderbolts I saw was the post-credit scene, and the damn thing was so long I shut it off because I got bored.
I heard the Russo brothers directed it.
Yes.
Yeah,
they did. It was 2 minutes plus or 2:20 or whatever it ended up being.
Maybe that's why it was better than the rest of the movie.
We're going to find out the Russo brothers are not much more than a one-hit wonder, you guys. I'm going to tell you right now, because James Gunn was holding their hands through the entire Infinity Saga.
Mm-hmm.
The only good movie they've ever made was Captain America Winter Soldier.
Was anything they've done since then? I mean, we've had Gray Man,
That's
Citadel.
my point.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, they had their day in the sun,
Winter Soldier
and now
was the peak, no doubt.
Yeah, it was great.
And it's
otherwise, they had other people helping them out, and now when we're going to actually see them for the first time without any James Gunn, Kevin Feige, and that's the other thing is he's rumored to be so stretched thin. Even though I would give him no credit for anything creative anyway, right? We're at this point now where I think we're going to see the proof is going to be in the pudding. You've got Robert Downey Jr., who, as much as we love him, let's be real, he's just as fucking crazy as the rest of them.
Oh yeah,
these movies are not going to turn out to be what everybody thinks they are.
I heard some spoiler rumors that Downey Jr. not only plays Doom, but 3 other characters in them.
Oh, for fuck's sake.
Yeah.
Apparently,
I wouldn't be surprised because they're shooting without a script now, too. Go ahead, Scribe.
Oh, well, so not to get too deep into it, I've learned about the Chris Claremont revelations about what apparently these movies are going to have. And in general terms, without giving anything specific away, many of the old guard MCU actors are going to play multiple iterations of their same character, or alternate versions of other characters where the actor is taking that role. So they get to pay the actor once and get 3 different performances out of them to fill out the running time.
It's like What If meets the multiverse.
Yeah, and some of the things I heard, I was kind of like, if that was a standalone story they were doing for like an anthology series, that might be interesting. But to try to cram all of that into one movie, come on.
You can find these rumors on the web if you. But Claremont apparently said a lot of stuff at a.
Yeah, I don't know how much of it I actually buy because the amount of people that he's saying that are supposed to be in the movie and some other people are leaking now. It's like they could never, even if they were just cameos, like quick cameos. The only thing I could see is if we have another scene near the ending where they're trying to recreate the Endgame scene. Yeah. Where you have all the Avengers show up and all the other superheroes in one big grand shot. And if that's it, then it's like, okay, fine. That I can see because 90% of them are probably just going to be CGI anyway. And they just signed off on it.
Yeah. Well, at this point, given how much freedom and money they're throwing at Russo's to do this, and given their track record of the recent years, I wouldn't put past them to do something as stupid as the worst possible scenario we can think of.
Yeah.
It really feels like a gambling addict at the table that's been losing. They're like, no, I'm all in. They're
doubling down and doubling down and doubling down more and more.
Oh.
Yeah. And you're not wrong. That's a good analogy for it because that's kind of what these movies are because the more and more expensive they get, and the less interested the audience is, the more of a gamble it is for them. And that's my point from the start is if they had only spent 30, 40, 50, 60 million dollars on Thunderbolts, we'd be having a very different conversation right now, or even $80 million.
Oh my God.
Because then the movie is within shot of making, not just being profitable, but making a lot of money. right? And if they would learn to make some of these comic book movies a lot cheaper, because there's so many of them, they could, right? The problem that's going along with this, and I think Paul and the others are bringing up more so, is that you have too many expensive cast members, and that's where most of this money is going. Because look at Avengers as a good example. When you when you factor in what Robert Downey Jr. is taking home and the Russo brothers alone, right there is at least 2/3 of your budget.
Yes. Yeah, they should have been focusing on single character, small stake stories and building just like what the original Avengers plan was. You have individual characters and their own little adventures, which are relatively
a few
small
team
stakes.
up movies, maybe.
Yeah, a crossover here, cameo there, kind of thing. And then when you do the really big team up thing, that's because you've earned enough over the smaller films to be able to justify a slightly larger budget. You already got them contracted in. But every single movie has to be, like Paul said, 17,000 names on an effects studio for an end-of-the-world scenario on a introductory movie for a character. Shang-Chi has to save the world from the giant dragon. Eternals have to save the world from the giant thing. It's like, stop
Neither
it.
one of those movies should have been over $100 million in budget.
They shouldn't have been made at all.
No,
That's not the way that they were made.
Honestly, those are the ones that should have been the TV shows. This is where they went bass backwards with this whole fucking thing. Yeah. You take these little characters that nobody knows and you toss them out there as a cheap-ass TV show and see if people actually react to them.
Or you just have a budget movie. Like I think Paul said, if they'd made Shang-Chi a classic chop-socky kind of... Yeah, exactly. Just low budget. It's just like, you've offended my family in the Shaolin Temple, and now I'm going to take you down kind of thing. It would have been great. And you can do those little things. The Werewolf by Night thing, nobody talks about this enough.
That was one of the few things I think they got right?
Yeah, exactly. They had a small cast, small budget, very intimate, quaint little story that doesn't affect everything else and isn't affected by everything else. And it was just a great little movie. And they could have done 20 of those for the budgets that they pay for these other movies. It's insane.
Well, they're doing one of those for, I think, Punisher. But you think about like Deadpool and Joker 2019, less than 60 million budgets on both those.
Exactly. And money well spent, by the way.
Deadpool's the only one I'll bring an exception to, because that was where we learned that's part of the problem with this. Because even though that movie was made on a quote-unquote budget and without a huge cast, they ended up getting sued from their special effects companies for not paying them. And that movie didn't even have nearly the amount of special effects as any of the other Marvel movies would have. Right?
Right.
That is the truth. So like, even at the end of the day, that movie still cost closer to 120 million to make, because they ended up having to dish out, I think, 30 or 40 million to pay off the animators, if I remember right.
Still made 780 or something like that.
Dare I make a segue here? A question: If my movie is made in the United States, but my effects house is situated in London, is that a foreign production?
Yes.
That's a good question, and that's kind of does segue nicely into our next topic, because I think part of the problem is that Hollywood needs to reinvent itself, and we're going to get into that here.
Yeah, and the update, there's also an update to that story that most people were, jumping to conclusions last night that maybe they shouldn't have jumped to.
So let's get into this, or should we do some super chats first, Andre?
Super chats and then.
Yeah, super chats and then that. Yeah,
I thought so. But let's start off with some super chats, and then we'll get into that. KDM says has been a member for 27 months. Wow. Thank you for that, KDM, and your awesome art there. We got /11111 in the house, sending in 5.99 euros, or close to 6 euros. It says, here in France, Wolverine was introduced in the late 90s as Serval, or Serval. I can't say it right, probably. I need Paul.
Serval.
Because the word we use for Wolverine translates to the glutton.
Just like glutton. Must be the blob.
Why would they do that?
There's some funny international translations going on there. I could mention several.
There are lots of nasty vermin in France they could have used.
Well, Chaos Sonic.
Yeah.
Chaos Sonic 1 sends in 10 and says, I am mad about this, and mad about this is not supposed to be the new Avengers, as that was a different team that includes Spider-Man and the original Thunderbolts are villains fooling the people led by Zemo. Yeah, that's another complaint I've heard a lot of people say, is how this isn't even really the Thunderbolts and all that kind of business. So yeah.
Thank God I knew nothing about them.
And then Chaos Sonic 1 says, I hate that this is the best one, that this should have been Zemo creating the Masters of Evil instead of making the new Avengers. Yeah. We have Paulie joining us in the back. How you doing?
Hey,
Paulie.
Hey,
Then we got-
Polly.
I'm well. What's going on?
We're in the middle of super chats.
Feliz Gringo de Mayo.
Oh yeah, that's right.
See.
It is Cinco de Mayo, isn't
Oh
it?
yeah, absolutely.
Yes.
On the
Totally
400
is.
highway, we had a sinkhole de Mayo.
Felicidades.
Oh, it's Drinko.
Oh,
I'm not
Cinco
a-
de Drinko.
it just makes so much sense that you love Thunderbolts.
See, in America, if we had a Cinco de Mayo, it would be actually being filled by Mexicans. See, so we're very festive.
because I actually have a sense of humor.
Well, it is a sense
that
of
what
humor,
it is?
but it's a Chato sense of humor.
Oh, yeah.
Well, it is unique.
It is very unique, and that's why I was like, of course he loves this film.
And then Mark Daly says with $10 right after Canada's never Trump or PM election and right before earnings call from Disney, Paramount and Warner, Trump announces 100% tariff on films produced out of the USA. Coincidence? I say the nay. Well, we're about to get into that actually.
Yeah.
So hold that thought.
Yeah.
And then we got
This
Mr.
is going to cripple
Godzilla.
the Canadian economy, that's for certain.
Ooh, it's not going to be good.
Yeah.
Yeah, too bad Script had to take off because I know he had some interesting
He's got good takes.
takes on this. Mr. Godzilla sends in $10 and says, I lost interest when I heard Sentry was in the film, and then I said, wait, that's the team against him? I would have had the Abomination, Zemo, Songbird, MODOK, and Taskmaster both redone, and Walker.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Then we got Captain Potato. He is a potato.
Wow.
Look at him. Sends in $10 and says, I am not a potato. No, I'm just kidding. Disney can't risk U.S. agent becoming the audience preferred Cap substitute over Sam Cap. Yeah, that's the problem is online,
That's also
though.
true.
How many people now are going, this is the Captain America we should have gone?
Well, I like Wyatt
Racist.
Russell's character.
Racist.
Yeah, Wyatt Russell was great.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Underrated.
Wyatt
Very
Russell.
good. Wyatt.
He's a very likable actor, too. That's the other thing. Mark Daly says, my only gripe with the Thunderbolts is slapping that name on this brand or on this band of therapy patients means we'll never get the real Thunderbolts. Zemo villains pretending to be heroes and liking it would have been great.
Yeah.
It would have been a nice twist for Zemo, too, because they haven't quite really utilized him
No,
very well.
they didn't use him well in Falcon Winter
no.
Soldier, and he's just gone now.
And they kind of left him open in a way that I could kind of see him making a bit of a turn towards the good in a way.
Yeah.
Because the only thing really wrong was that of all the quote unquote sympathetic villains we've had in the universe, he was one of the ones that made sense, right?
A little bit.
You know?
Yeah. His motivation was understandable,
Yeah.
at least.
I mean, yeah, his plan was very convoluted, but
Yes. He
and
made
it
a lot of
required a lot of
assumptions.
people to. Yeah, it required some people to do some things that you were really assuming they were going to do. But yeah, Dark King sends in 5 and says, after a bad box office start from the year, are theaters on the right course to survive the year? The weekend total since April have been 100 million. Culture, that's a good question for you.
The weekend totals since April all have been 100 million plus, yes, but it's basically just the top 3. That's really the point behind it all. You cannot have 3 successful films and everything else dragging Hollywood down at the same time. Exhibitors are not getting the kind of, butts in seats that they need to leave all of their theaters open. This is going to be a problem going forward. We also need more releases we need to get back into the 40s rather than sitting, low in the 30s. That's not helpful. There are films out there to see, Paulie could point you towards a lot of them. The problem is they're not making it into wide distribution. And that comes down to what distributors seem to be willing to distribute. That's basically the name of the game. And right now, there are so few big studios, as we've seen the condensing of Hollywood. It's not helped. And I don't see growth. I don't see new studios coming that are going to be competitive fast enough for this problem to get fixed anytime soon.
Yeah. And then we've got
Yeah,
Jason
I think
Webster.
it's gotten better, but I agree with culture. It's definitely got. I mean, but you're talking about a 6-week run where it was death.
Yeah,
so there's life. There's some lifeline. Some what do you call it? A pulse.
Yeah, there's a pulse.
But there's a lot of films that have been produced for low to decent budgets that get little or no love from whether they don't have the marketing that the other big studios have, that people just don't hear about, and then they're gone.
Yeah, right now Hollywood's built on the idea of locking out the competition, and it's been that way for a while, and that's been a problem. And unless they allow the competition to exist and they don't make deals that are counterproductive to exhibitors either finding out about these films or getting it shot at these films and having decent marketing. I know that's one of the big things that Paulie and I probably could talk about is that there's not enough marketing for some of these projects, and they go unnoticed.
It's very strange. That's very strange. I think for the most part, they mismarket most of the films.
That too.
I think like Minecraft was perfect.
Yes.
Sinners was perfect. Who they marketed it to begin with to get the ball rolling.
Yeah. They need more horror too. I mean, usually these horror movies are low budget. They need something like a Longlegs or a Terrifier 3 or something that puts up some numbers.
Yeah, there's always a horror movie out every week. That's the funny part. And even that from what I hear, was pretty bad. That Lady in the Yard, even that made its money and then some, because it was made for $15 million. So yeah.
Then we got Jason Webster who says 61st Bucksung Arts Awards. Uprising 3 honors, Harbin 2 awards, and Revolver got 2 awards. There you go. There's your update on the Bucksung Art Awards. Hypergiver 2 says once upon a time the name Claremont would give us hope, but now it tells us that it's just woke incoherent bullshit.
Oh.
Dark Hierophant has been here for 15 months. Thank you for that. Kolekioki says the movie looks so muted as well. No one mentions this with all of the Marvel. All of their costumes look shit. There's no color and the clothes look baggy. Well, that's because they did this tactical thing and they've stuck with that kind of thing. Clearly, Kevin Feige likes that look.
Well, there's another thing as well. I mean, Marvel has been really female-centric as of late, and it's very, very important not to invite the male gaze. What I'm saying?
Too.
So it needs to be really tactical, all covering, a little bit saggy, because anything else is inviting the male gaze. That's bad. Very, very bad and problematic. You can't do that. Everyone needs to be covered up. So, yeah.
It's also the color palette of Saving Private Ryan. I mean, everything's just so flat and muddy.
And that's partially just because it's all shot on digital now.
It's also color profiles. You can get in there
too,
but
it's also supposed to be dark, gritty, where the anti-heroes, etc., and so forth.
But I mean, I had this problem with Spider-Man: No Way Home, where the movie shouldn't be so dingy looking. It just looks that bad because it's shot on digital cameras. Yeah. Where Spider-Man's costume is like a muted red.
But Guardians of the Galaxy was shot on digital as well, and I believe so was Thor Ragnarok. And still, they look fantastic because there was an intention that they would look fantastic and a little bit more colorful. And that really is what they should be doing. But in the case of this particular movie, I was tactical, gray, and muted.
Until you get to the Sentry. Sorry.
But it was a movie about depression, so it's kind of like fit thematically, so I'm not going to hold that against them because it was part of the larger theme of it. Now, for some other things, there's no excuse. But, yeah.
Yeah, well, that's when the Sentry shows up in all of his golden god territory in contrast to everybody else. Then he's the real superhero, where they're just a bunch of sad sack. We're
but it makes up for it by becoming the Void. So, yeah.
Yes, there's that too.
Which is a problem because now we're going to be dealing with mental health in every one of these movies going forward.
Well, you know what? Considering all of the TikTok videos and everything that has been driving people insane, especially the audience that Marvel has been making these movies for, the modern audience, if there's anyone that probably needs mental help, it's the modern audience. So, let them know it's okay to talk and find a therapist. Maybe you actually do need it, and find someone to give you a hug. It's better than raging on TikTok.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Captain America had a support group in Endgame or something, didn't he? I mean, wasn't he seeing a therapist at some point?
Yeah, but it was like one scene.
Okay,
and that was justified by like half the world disappeared, so you could kind of extend that one a little bit.
Well, the same thing. 70 years. Yeah. I mean, there's all kinds of reasons that Cap could have seen a therapist, right?
And you have the same thing in The Punch and stuff like that. I mean, there's legit reasons for going to therapy and stuff like that. For some things, there are legit reasons. Now, in this particular case, just looking at TikTok and just the news and everything, the madness that has been promoted in the last 4.5 years in particular. I mean, it's going to drive anyone insane, which is why I'm willing to look a little bit through the fingers there.
On the look and feel, this is pretty much on the nose. Horseradish Power says Thunderbolts is the great Snyderverse film.
Yeah, no problem.
Yeah, I mean, it's dark and sad and, makes you feel not a lot of joy when you leave.
Sorry, Andre, finish your point there. I'm sorry.
No, I was finished.
All right.
Yeah. And I agree with Andre, by the way, because I did feel like I was watching a bunch of women whine in TikTok. So,
but you have to let it have to run on this culture. Unfortunately, I was hoping you could stick around long enough.
Me
for
too.
The other
Me
talk,
too.
but
yeah,
plug your business.
Yeah, my business is, I guess, noir at this point, dark and sad. But look, I have a channel on YouTube, Rumble, Odyssey, Minds, and Getter. I also have a wonderful X account that you should follow because I've been a little spicy on there lately. Lots of fun stuff. I even dove into the ocular hypertelorism. Fascination that Hollywood has right now with casting. That got some love. So do check that out and just say thanks. I always enjoy doing Box Office Mondays with you guys. So hopefully I'll see you soon. And go check out Paulie, Latino Slant. He's a good guy. I'll see you later.
Bye, Culture.
Take care. And then we've got Jason Webster, who says, very happy Uprising won 3 honors at the 61st Bok Song Arts Awards. Legend Park Chan-wook, Decision to Leave, won Best Screenplay for Uprising. There you go. Grand Admiral Adam has been a member for 28 months. He says, this Thunderbolts team is more like Secret Avengers, not Thunderbolts or New Avengers. Oh, God. This New Avengers thing is really confusing me. Yeah. And I agree that this was part of the plan for a while. And I think they think they're clever, and because now they're saying that this is the new official title of the movie is
right. Yeah, they just put out a new poster. They're changing all the.
Yeah, see this thing here. Which is why it has the asterisk thing to it.
I'm wondering how many people are going to be fooled into thinking this is a completely different movie. And then go see it a second time.
Good one.
None.
New marketing trick.
None. But I do think that, it was supposed to be this big marketing trick. I think they were going to think that this movie was much bigger than it was. And then it was supposed to be this big, huge reveal that they were the new Avengers. Because remember, we've been promised a new Avengers movie for how many years now? Like, since basically the end of Endgame.
Well, we should actually, when it was the Kang Dynasty, it should have opened already. It was supposed to kick off summer season this year.
So now they can say, hey, let's go see the new Avengers movie.
Oh, haha.
Yeah, see, and I don't think it's going to work out the way they wanted it.
No,
to.
Clever girl.
Yeah. Next weekend, let's go see the new Avengers movie. Oh yeah, there's a new Avengers movie. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, no. Thank you, but no thank you. Yep. And then we got Kalikioki again sending in 5 and says, White Widow's costume is white and form-fitting. The film looks nothing like the comics. Not a big fan of the new Superman suit, but at least it's recognizable. Yeah, you're not wrong. Thunderstorm sends in $9.99, says, how's that DEI woke stuff working out? Did that modern audience show up yet? No, not really.
I didn't. I heard this wasn't woke. I haven't really heard any claims of this being a woke movie.
It isn't.
Okay.
No, I mean, aside from sort of like the group hug resolution, aside that's relatively
minor. Entourage had group hugs, right? I mean, I never accused Entourage of being woke.
Exactly. I mean, there were dudes in that group hug. So I would not put that into the woke category.
That's progress. So.
No, but this is more like the DEI.
Maybe it's the girl boss aspect that he was referring to. I don't know.
think
But even that, I mean, there's no more girl boss here than Black Widow always was, if we are completely honest. Yeah, of course, you kind of like have to buy into that. Here you have someone who's even shorter than Scarlett Johansson, who is able to take on very helpful stuntmen. But if you can kind of like just buy into that and accept that, then there's no wokeness here.
There was a little bit in that one of those early scenes of between Ghost and Yelena versus Walker of a little bit of mansplaining type resistance kind of stuff, but I think that might be the closest.
Pushback in the chats. We're getting like, what about all the woman-splaining?
Well,
and
yeah.
Mickey says this is one of the wokest movies ever. You guys are hacks. And
Yeah.
kill us.
No, it's not.
yeah.
No, it's not.
Paulie, what wokeness did you see in it?
Yeah, man.
What did we miss?
Well, I haven't seen it. I'm just going by what people have told me who have seen it, that it's not particularly woke.
Well, I think that if you see much wokeness here, then I think maybe you may have gotten a little bit hypersensitive, which I do not blame anyone for. But I think if you were to take that exact standard and you were to go back in time, you'd find the same level of wokeness way back in Iron Man 2.
Yeah, right. Well, Tootsie was woke. I mean, from what I understand, so.
Yeah.
Well, we're woke hacks. Yeah.
Yay.
We're wide awake. We're not woke. That's all.
No, we're woke hacks. Hey, they paid us
I'm
money.
not
We
awake
woke
at
hacks.
all, so I don't know what y'all are
No,
talking
you're
about.
never awake.
Well, that's
I'm
on
never
brand,
awake.
Tom, so it's okay.
Jason Webster sends in 5 Australian and says, Jean Duyen, I'm sure I screwed that up.
That's pretty
Killed
good.
Boksoon won Best Actress, film 5th career win. Wow. At the 61st Boksong Award, Arts Awards for her performance in the action film Revolver. It's a good Beatles album, too. High Dragon Star sends in 5 and says, what are the chances that theaters will renegotiate contracts with studios, especially since theaters are running out of money?
There's nothing
kinda-
else to put in there. I mean,
Yeah, I
what
was going to say, they kind of had to renegotiate after COVID.
Yeah.
I'm not so sure that there's going to be much more they can work out other than longer windows for movies. That's the one thing I think they can really try to push for, but
What they can do is elevate and keep spotlighting new distribution hubs, studio companies like Angel Studios. They can welcome them to the table, HI, because those big ass corporate contracts, those are always going to be there. There might be slight changes here and there, but what at least those theater chains and can open up their doors, because there's plenty of screens, and bring in new people like Angel Studios, and there's other ones as well.
that's one thing they could do. They have been opening, like, you can do private screenings now. They're opening the door. They're opening the door to more indie film fare, like that's not rated, and other things like that used to be an issue. Terrifier's a great example of that. So I mean, there's ways that the theaters have always found ways to make money. I think right now the studios are the ones that should be the most worried. And we're going to get into that in just a few moments here. Dark King says, on this Cinco de Mayo, let us pay tribute to the Mexican twins who became heroes as firefighters, Jose and Jose B. Paulie.
Yeah. Wow. Jose and
Jose B.
Jose B.
Yes. A little dad joke
again,
there.
that just hashtag Gringo de Mayo.
Gringo de Mayo. Jason Webster says 61st Boksong Arts Awards TV, When Life Gives You Tangerines. 4 honors. I'm really going to screw this up. Zhang Young, The Star is Born, 2 of them. And then Doubt got 2, and Lovely Runner got 2. So there you go. That's the television side of things. Thank you for that, Jason. Toga Free is in the house and sends in 499, says Snyder wishes he made a movie as coherent as Thunderbolts. Oh,
Yeah, that's true.
Hi-oh.
That's very true. There wasn't enough slow motion grain.
He did. It was called Day of the Dead or Dawn of the Dead, I think.
Yeah, written by James Gunn.
Hello.
Horseradish Power sends in £2 and says, I enjoyed Thunderbolts. Want to rewatch it a third time. Well, I'm glad you enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Jesus Davila sends in 20 smackaroos. Wow, Jesus. Living large today. Says,
Yeah,
this
thank you.
This what I probably would have paid for a Thunderbolts ticket. Would rather give the money here than a movie that isn't worth my time. Here at Midnight's Edge, your time is respected. Well, we're glad, and thank you for that, Jesus. One of our big supporters on the channel here, and we appreciate that.
All the cool kids are doing it.
That's right. High Dragon Star sends in 5 and says, Thunderbolts is Avengers, Great Lakes Avengers. Look them up, the campy, comedic, and pretty bad Avengers group. Yeah, there's a lot of people that have brought this up, High Dragon Star. They're like, why didn't they just make this a Great Lakes Avengers film?
An actual comedy, that would have been great. Then you could just introduce everybody as just like goofy superheroes. That sounds more like a Disney Plus
You
series,
could have
though,
leaned more
honestly.
into the Guardians of the Galaxy stuff, too. Then.
Yes, much more easily. Much more easily.
Guardians of the Galaxy was kind of a comedy, and the first Ant-Man with Michael Pena and Paul Rudd, that was hilarious.
Yes.
I wish I could see the original script treatment, though, that what's his name had done for it before he got booted off the project.
Yeah. And then Chaos Sonic 1 says the real new Avengers had Spider-Man, Wolverine, Luke Cage, Jessica Jones, and Carol when she was a good character. See, I actually would have watched this even with Brie, to be honest with you. This sounds like a hit movie right here. And you have all these people cast already.
Yep.
Especially considering you just had a big hit with Hugh Jackman returning as Wolverine again. Pilgrim Media says, hacky sack, hack that sack. Pilgrim Media then says, you guys watching the Illuminati Met Gala? No, I'm not. What is the... Is he talking about just the Met Gala in general?
He refers to the Met Gala in general. But when you look at the
That's what I figured.
costumes and the guests and stuff like that,
Like the
I'm not going to
red
get the
carpet
channel
ceremony.
down, but I see where he's coming from, and that's where people dress all like shades.
The girls on Toxic Femme usually cover the Met Gala stuff.
Yeah.
Or at least the goofier of the outfits.
Yeah, those are the worst ones.
Yeah. But with
The
that,
general-
let's get into the big news of the day, and that is the talk of the town. Hollywood is in panic, and of course they're saying, see, we told you Trump was going to ruin us and ruin the world. So the movie industry is shocked and confused after Trump says he'll put 100% tariffs on films produced outside the U.S. This is nuts. All right, so now there's been a couple updates to this story. I am just fresh to this. So somebody's going to have to get me up to speed on this, just like some people in the audience. So who do I hand this to? Andre, are you up to speed on this?
I've been traveling all day, so I think that we handle this thing to Scribe. You have no excuse. You're up to this. What's going on?
Okay,
We had
so
script here earlier. Unfortunately, he had to leave.
yeah, so Trump put a thing out on Truth Social the other last night saying that he wanted to put 100% tariffs on movies that were not produced in the United States to try to encourage more, movie making in the United States. However, outside of that effective declaration, there was no clarification exactly what qualifies as a production made outside the United States. Because, again, as I said before, the super chats, it's like, well, if I film the entire thing in Utah, but then I farm out my effects to a house in the UK, does that qualify as a outside of the United States production? So many moving parts of movies these days is not all done in the United States, even if it is a production company that's headquartered within. So there's so much ambiguity to this.
Another example there. Let's say that you have a movie that is mostly filmed in the US, but then you have a couple of scenes that require exotic locations. Say, for instance, that you are filming Dune, and there's literally no dunes which are majestic enough in the continental United States that you can get away with them. Or say that you're filming Superman and you need the Fortress of Solitude, and again, even Alaska in winter doesn't quite cover it, or you need an alien landscape and there's nothing quite like like Greenland or Iceland. in the United States. So you need one of these scenes filmed outside of the US.
We're going to buy one of them anyway.
15% outside. Yeah, of course, you can buy Greenland, so that will
Yay.
take care of that. But
Sorry,
Iceland may be a bigger challenge.
Yeah, I know. No, yeah, that's a good question. And that's the bigger question, I guess, is how is this going to work?
Yeah, well, the stocks dropped on a whole bunch of production companies just overnight, apparently as a result of this, because all of a sudden you have Netflix and Paramount and all these other companies, and Disney as well. They all dropped a couple of points.
Especially Disney, because they film
Yes.
like all of their Star Wars output.
I was just going to
is,
say,
filmed
all
in
of
the
the three
UK
companies you
from
just
Disney.
mentioned, yeah, I was just going to say, of the three companies you just mentioned, they're the ones who film the most shit outside the U.S., and that's how Netflix circumvented all the COVID shit years ago, too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So it's the problem is that Trump has made this declaration in a very ambiguous way, and nobody's quite sure how it's supposed to work or what the conditions would be on it or how you would qualify or disqualify yourself. So it's all very up in the air. But of course, when you do something like that, you make uncertainty, and that's why the stock market has reacted this way. It's like all of a sudden, all these movies in production or things were they now going to be, or things planned to be in production in the near future, are they suddenly now at risk of having their costs jump through the roof?
I mean, without knowing exactly how it works, I'm imagining it's going to be like most productions are now. Like, okay, to qualify for a lot of these, like say Canada, and Paul, you could probably jump in here and help me with this. To do a production in Canada, if through a U.S. studio, you're required to hire X amount of crew and cast that are Canadian to qualify for said tax break, right? So I'm assuming it's something that will go the other way around. So X amount of your production and all that kind of stuff has to be in the U.S. You could probably get away with doing maybe 20% outside the U.S. and not get bombarded with the same kind of 100% tax or whatever. But I don't know if Paul has anything to add to that from the other perspective of that.
I'm pretty sure it's going to be percentage based, just like you said, and they'll use Hollywood accounting to try to get it as best they can. But you know, a movie like Mission Impossible, what are they going to shoot everything in Georgia now? The thing I'm most worried about is, doesn't Trump know that the people in Hollywood are really going to not like him after this? I mean, he's really risking his reputation.
Ah, man, gosh, they'll hate him.
Well, the bigger question here
all
is,
the people
what about,
that already hated him.
You mean all the people that have secretly, have gone to him and
MAGA,
said,
the MAGA contingency in Hollywood. Oh man,
no, not the MAGA contingency.
Let Andre finish his point here, because then we have another guest joining us. Actually, sorry.
Yeah, I was about to say, I would think that Stallone and Foyt and Gibson would be able to set Trump straight on some of this.
This is
appointed them ambassadors, didn't he? I mean, you think that
this was Voight's idea
on this?
Yeah, no, this was their idea. Yeah.
This was Voight's idea, Andre. The rumor is that John Voight is the one who pushed this in the first place and convinced Trump to go this way.
No,
well,
you guys. No.
In movies like Working Man, I'm sure that was shot in America.
What do you got to say, Paulie?
No, man, Mike's here. I'm good. Okay.
Good. No, what are you going to say? You were going to say something.
I'm good. Mike's here.
All right, Mike's here.
I want to know. I'm not going to say anything until I know what Paulie had to say.
Oof.
Happy Gringo de Mayo.
Happy Cinco de Mayo. It's a little early for us to be drinking, but Mexican American can make. If someone wants to send a smoking hot chick to my room, I can start early.
Hell yeah.
I do want to report to the fans. I was supposed to be in a 2-day audit here in Houston, all day Monday, all day Tuesday, and half a day Wednesday, and the agent already released me.
Yeah, he told me he was going to be locked up. I tried getting him in his yesterday.
Anyway, Paulie, what were you going to say about all this?
This is what I was going to say is the wokest of woke, people that you can imagine have been going in secret to Trump to save this industry. That's all I was going to say.
Oh, okay.
That's not a rumor. It's not. That has happened. That is happening, and and this is not an overnight thing. This is not like, oh my God, he did what? The reality is that this has been a runaway industry for decades now. It is absolutely ridiculous. It's been ridiculous. It's already a tough industry to even etch out a living. So. I fully applaud this, and I think this is fantastic. This has to, and this has to kick the asses of these state governors to get tax incentives, but also to just create a federal tax incentive for productions. Let's get this going, man. We need to make movies here in America. That's how it used to be for so long.
Yeah.
That's for so long.
So you think this encourages domestic production and counters sort of foreign incentives that everybody?
Well, I think it's going to have to.
Yeah.
I mean, think about it for a minute. One of the reasons Stallone left California, he's one of the people that left California. I'm sure he would love to go back.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the thing, is Hollywood used to be the hub, and that's why all these movie stars live there. And Paulie's right. I've heard, of actors complaining is like, why the fuck do I live in Hollywood when I work 90% of the year outside of the U.S. or outside of my home state or way away from my home?
In Canada. Right.
In Canada.
Yeah.
And stuff like that. And you're right, because 90% of the TV shows now are made in Canada.
Yep.
Fucking most productions are made elsewhere. You've got but there are places in the U.S. that are trying to build studios, trying to get production back into the U.S., and I think that's a good thing. And I agree with you. You got to get incentives in here. Trump needs to get out there and say, yes, not only are you going to get X amount if you shoot in the U.S., you're going to get double that if you shoot in Hollywood, right? Or California or whatever.
Oh, my gosh. Yeah, that'd be huge, because Hollywood, from what I understand, has lost a ton of work to Vancouver.
Well, and it's all because of the taxing, right? Because, and I'm sure Paulie can back me up on this, because that's part of the problem. The beauty of California is that you have almost every single atmosphere you can think of within 10, 15, 20 mile radius drive, right? Like, that's why they used to make movies out there all the time, because you could have a desert, and then 20 minutes you could drive, you could have a forest, and then 20 minutes down the road you could drive and you could have a big old clean lake and all this other, and it was always, the weather was decent. You didn't have to worry about all the bullshit all the time you have to deal with in the mountains or anywhere else where you're filming and shooting stuff, where you constantly have to worry about, weather conditions and all this other bullshit. None of that is an issue in California. But what became a problem was the taxes. But go ahead. Sorry, Paulie.
No, even if you look at just our United States, we got every terrain there is. I just sent you guys some info in the private chat just on dooms. Look at all those films that have been filmed outside of Yuma, Arizona.
Well, on that note, there's very few movies where there's an actual real good excuse that they went outside the U.S. just for specifically the look of the place. Like, the good example I can think of is Lord of the Rings, right? Why did you have to shoot New Zealand? Because that's one of the only places in the world that still looks like old England does, that isn't built, that doesn't have power lines, that doesn't have all, like, that made sense, right? That's why you can do that once in a while, but not everything has to be that way. Go ahead. Sorry, Paul, you had more.
No. So I definitely, this is a problem, and it's not, it affects every single person in the industry, in front of, behind the camera, high and low, blah, blah, blah. But that being said, there is some details like, well, what do you mean? Like, how does this going to work practically? If a U.S. production is filming like Doomsday, Avengers, and in England, and is it a UK production because it has a UK production office set up, Mikey? So for the taxes, so technically it's not a US production. They're gonna have to clarify a lot of that stuff.
Well, not just that, you're running the risk of a tariff war. So I mean, are we going to start getting tariff for our stuff overseas? They're already the industry's already reliant on global.
Well, we already have situations where, like in China, there's only so many movies
allowed.
But
I would argue like that unlike consumer goods, a tariff war about entertainment is largely irrelevant. I mean, seriously, we're gonna is there a battle internationally, Chris, going over like Indian movies? I don't think so.
No, but I think it's kind of risky, since the film or the movie cinemas tickets consumers, it's already low. I mean, it's down 40% from, or maybe 30% from the pre-COVID days. I don't know if this is going to.
I think we need to take a macro look at this thing, because there's a lot of productions, a lot of movies that are delivered in theaters as well as on streaming services that are filmed overseas for tax benefits. I'm going to go back to what Paulie said. I've heard for a long time that not only conservatives in Hollywood wanted something to happen like this, but a lot of the hypocritical Democrats in Hollywood wanted this too. I've heard that for years, that they wanted something like this too. And only recently have you heard some of the people that, whether they're Democrats or Republicans in Hollywood, speak up. There was a recent interview that you had with Ben Affleck. You all saw that. I think you talked about it on Midnight's Edge or Midnight's Edge After Dark, one of the shows.
I think Matt Damon, I think is what you're referring to.
Yeah, sorry, Matt Damon.
Yep.
No, Ben Affleck also talked about it as well.
Okay.
They both did.
Okay.
And so the point of it is that it goes back to what the reason Hollywood was such a great place way back when was that New York did cost a lot, and people came out to the Wild West to film a lot of this stuff. The Wild West ground zero was Hollywood. Now Atlanta and Canada were the first two places, regional centers, to take money away from Hollywood. Then that expanded to England, and now everybody has incentives to do stuff outside of California, where the costs are literally 10 to 20 times the cost of anything, because it's basic. So I think something dramatic like this is needed. I applaud it. I think it's fantastic. I don't even give a shit that my Disney stock goes down or that other studio stock goes down, because it's not about what the investors want. It's what the line people need, that are what are called below the line people. I mean, how many people in that make up the most of the economic force in Hollywood are the set builders, the actors that work on a daily basis, people like Polly's girlfriend, not these high level falutin, class A stars.
They
that
pay the most
Marvel
taxes
movies.
too, right?
Yeah, I mean, these people.
Oh my God!
Is that W-2 employees that get paid through the unions pay a frackload of taxes.
Right,
So,
and a lot of the big stars, they don't even live in California anymore. They moved out.
Absolutely not. And
No,
so
they don't
something
live
like
out.
this is needed for the production staff, the writers, the graphics people, the editors, all of the people to otherwise this industry is dead. And for whatever reason, we can do stuff overseas all day and night. But I saw someone make a comment in chat, which is that the more that we produce stuff for an international, global, and I'm going to say it, leftist, ridiculous agenda, then the further away we get from the classic moral lessons that Hollywood used to give us about individualism, rugged Americanism, and the ideals that the entire planet used to aspire to be like here, that were promoted by the American film industry, which more recently have gone to the wayside as woke infestation has taken over the hive mind of all these leftist liberal dipshits. So I applaud this. I think this is great, and I hope the stocks continue to tank. And I hope that I hope that Canada loses a ton of money, and I hope that New Zealand does, Australia, and especially the United Kingdom.
This is just another example of certain sectors in the American market where there's such good capitalists that they need protection because of their own incompetence and self-inflicted inability to compete. This is 100%. This is not Chinese cheap labor over American labor. This is 100% abdication of their own businesses.
That's right. And
that's a great way of putting it. Yeah.
That is a brilliant way of putting it, Chato, because essentially what's happened is that the creative integrity and brilliance that was seated in the Western world, in the U.S. and Canada, has now been cheapened and sold to various places on the planet, all for what? Tax credits. And what's the net result of the product that we've got? The net results are that Hollywood actors and Hollywood industry people are out of work and suffering. And number two, the quality of what we see on our TV screens or in our movie theaters sucks.
So let's give you an example of that, right, guys?
That's not due to offshoring, though.
Let's give you an example of that, guys, in the chat, right? What does that mean? What they'll do is they'll take a production that was here and they'll go and film it out of the country. And you have to, to get your tax breaks, you have to do so many local hires on every level.
That's what I was talking about before. Yeah,
I know you were, but I'm going to add to this is that what Hollywood will do, though, is that they'll actually go through the audition process, production process, and see who they can get here, then go and lowball over there in fucking Canada. And yeah, I said it, over there in fucking Canada. Don't give a shit. And then they'll find lower asses to do those jobs, and then they'll leave those people who had thought they had gotten the job out in the wind. Out in the, they're screwed. American jobs.
It doesn't help.
It's happening. It's been happening, and it happens every day.
It doesn't help that the governor of California put some edict together that required studios to get tax credits in California to follow a hard DEI regime. This is all self-inflicted.
Yeah, this puts pressure on Gavin Newsom, I think, in a big way.
Well, that's another part of the conversation, right? Because here's the thing. It's Hollywood's done this before, and it's like they didn't learn their lesson. Do you guys remember 20 years ago when they started filming everything in Australia? They started moving everything to Australia, and then this basically happened. All the unions and all the people started griping, so then they moved everything back here. But then this is when like all the other production companies started opening in Georgia and all these other places this facilities did. But yeah, no,
you know what?
Chato's right.
Listen, Chato's on point, man, because I'm running through our experiences with casting, with productions that will go and do the casting or do some of the hiring practices here. Then we'll go to Louisiana. Then we'll go to Atlanta.
Right.
Then we'll go to New Mexico. It used to be New Mexico, Texas. And you're absolutely right, Chato. In other states have better tax incentives. That's other states.
Yeah.
I mean, I saw a horror film last night, and half of it was filmed. More than half of the film was filmed in Colombia. I think set in New York City.
This is what I was getting at. Is like that when they've done it before, they brought it back, but then instead of coming back to Hollywood, is when they started coming to Georgia and Arizona and all these other states instead of coming back to Hollywood.
I mean,
right?
Sound of Freedom was what, Fox Columbia?
Yeah, well, and this is nothing new. They used to shoot a lot of cheap movies back in Romania back in the day, and
yeah, it's not nothing new. But we have to compete. We have to compete, and we have to just like we would. Because I think the DEI stuff is like the last of the shit. Because this has been going on for a while.
Well, that's what's preventing people now from coming into Hollywood. That's what I think you guys are saying more so, at least my interpretation. Because like here's the thing. This is why Trump is retaliating, because Newsom's like, oh yeah, you can get these tax breaks as long as you adhere to these DEI incentive programs kind of thing, right? But at that point, then people are like, well, fuck that. I'll just go shoot somewhere else, right?
What I meant was like the last 10 years now have been the active DEI, which has been the death of all.
That's what I'm saying, yeah.
Right. A lot of what we're seeing and hearing. Absolutely. But this has been going on for decades and decades. But yeah.
And it was started with the 1980s writers' strike.
The 88 strike?
Yeah, the 80s writers' strike. That's really when this thing kicked into gear, because Hollywood would never do a A-lister project outside of the United States or Los Angeles unless it was on location.
Yeah, you're right. The only big movies that used to shoot like that were like more independent features, like the George Lucas features. He'd always go over to the UK, right? But like you're not wrong. Like it is more of a last 20, 30 years thing. And like I said, I kind of remember it started when they started doing all these productions in Sydney and all these other places in Australia. And it's like, and it was just over the tax incentives. That's it.
Yeah, the only thing they had to remember when they were doing The Matrix is to flip the film over, so the cars are driving on the right side of the road.
He's not
speaking on the right and the wrong side of.
Well, the Matrix movies built Australia a big freeway thing, didn't they? Basically.
Yeah, and
I don't know that they got to keep that.
Again, I think they did.
Once again, the only thing that I object to this of many tariffs that Trump has been thinking of is that this is 100% self-inflicted. That Toronto has been building Pinewood-sized studios.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's more than just, right now, what are we, 65 cents on the dollar? I mean,
right.
That's another incentive to do your productions here. But, the Georgia and all these different places have been investing in improving facilities, whereas Hollywood stopped.
Yeah, and we have to lose Scribe Light, but you're 100% right, because that's part of the reason why most television moved to Canada is because the dollar was cheap. They could get more for the dollar, basically.
Yeah, basically. And now we have these mammoth studios, and one of the reasons for shooting up here is logistics.
Yeah. So, Scribe, you got to leave us. So why don't you go ahead and plug your business?
Sure. At 12:30 p.m. today, 3:30 p.m. Eastern, I got my show DEI Death Watch. Did you know that we have segregated racial graduation ceremonies that are still going on because we have to own Trump by continuing on with demonstrably racist things in colleges and universities?
Well, we got to watch out for you people.
Oh, I see how it is. Well, anyway, so if you'd like to find out more about that and a couple other things I got going on, I'll have that at 12:30.
What do you got against Cinco de Mayo graduation tacos? With
Mikey, you're white.
Oh.
Well,
but that will be after. Polly, you have something that happens just before that, don't you?
Yeah. I'll redirect. It's going to redirect to you, brother.
Okay. But so otherwise, everybody have a good rest of your Monday. Nice to talk to everybody. Nice to see you, Mexican Iron Man. I don't get often enough to see you on here, and very informative stuff. Nice to hear from you. And Polly, Paul, Tom, Andre, and the absent culture. Everybody have a good Monday, and I'll see you on Wednesday.
See you, Scribe.
Thanks for joining us.
Bye, guys.
I got to bail out too. If you
All
guys
right,
don't
Chris.
mind, I'll take the exit ramp.
Sure.
We've got I don't know if you guys heard of that documentary, Beneath London, the story of alien war, but we are showing that documentary for free in the next few minutes on Bleeding Fool. It's about basically one of those immersive events that happened for the Alien movies. Sigourney Weaver came out and Lance Henriksen in London, and it was one of those walkthrough tour things. It's actually a pretty cool documentary. And then in the morning, we're posting on Bleeding Fool despite Revenge of the Sith getting a re-release for its 20th anniversary. Let's face it, the prequels still suck, and Star Wars is only those first 3 movies. So, guys, I'm at Bleeding Fool or at Chris Brawley. Mexican Iron Man, man, what a treat. I don't think I've been on here with you on here. I think it's always been some lame excuse why you can't join us. So
Yeah, like I need some lame excuse like I need to represent a client before the IRS.
you mean like work, in other words? Yeah, like job type job. I got you.
Shockingly, I've decided to not become a YouTuber as a career vocation. Shocking.
That's I'm just a special guest. That's all I've ever ranked.
You should hear some of the shit he says about YouTubers.
Oh yeah,
and he had a good time.
Thanks,
good to finally be on a stream with you, Mike. And
love your work, love your website, love your work, and I love watching you. And if it makes you feel better, getting to listen to you on this show is another great reason I get to be a listener and not a participant. I'm like, Chris is going to be there.
That's where he started.
Yeah.
He started in the audience where he was all banged up and beaten up, and like a gang beat him up over a woman, something like that.
You got to look out,
His attraction.
Mikey. You got to look out, Mikey, for Chris, man. He can get a little gangster on us.
It's a little spicy. It can get
little
spicy.
but
what better day to be spicy than Gringo de Mayo, right?
Yeah,
exactly, man.
Well, take care of yourself, Chris.
Later,
Thank
fellas.
you for being here.
Take care, Chris.
Bye, Chris.
Speaking of Mikey, look how good this man looks.
Yeah,
What are you doing
amazing
that?
today.
Like
Zenfit, baby.
He is my goal. I want to be as good looking as Mikey at this point. That's
3
my goal.
workouts a week with Paulie for 18 months provided the foundation, and I'm back to working out with him again now the last 2-3 months. I took about a year off, went into some heavy cardio, and then we're back. And now my goal is to drop another 20 and get my
Tone
next.
it up. We're gonna tone it up,
Wow.
man.
Yeah, we got to tone it up now. I think I still got to lose some weight. I think I'm still a little too fat, but
Yeah,
Well, physical therapy sets me free. I'll be bugging Paulie. So
Yeah, maybe a couple fewer pizzas and you'll be on your way. We love you.
Paulie, he doesn't
Pizza's
eat like
good.
that anymore. He doesn't eat pizza, and he doesn't eat ho-hos, and he doesn't.
I meant you, Mike.
I don't eat pizza either.
You're eating pizza tonight.
Well, that's with Loki. When's the last time? Look,
Don't
fucker,
any
when's
of
the
you
last time
tell
I
him.
ate pizza?
I'm just
if
giving
you
you a
tell
hard
him,
time,
I
Mikey.
will come.
And by the
kick
way,
your
I've been
asses.
fasting all day.
Nice. Like, you know, Mikey
I like how
has
Paulie
this-
gives me
he
shit
has
when
this
I'm his
exterior
number
of being
one
the biggest
success.
tough guy, right? And then you say one little thing and, you know, it all falls apart.
All right, let's get back to these tariffs because we have a little bit more I want to get into with Mikey here because he's the tax man. He even has his own Beatles theme song. So yeah, So do you think this is going to work, Mike? Do you think this was a good move? You said this was a good move. So let's get into the logistics of this a little bit more. So how do you think that they're going to be able to implement this kind of a thing through the actual tax side of things, and how they're going to make it work?
Well, I think there's at least a couple ways to look at this. One of which Paulie started to mention in his comments, which is that here's the angles to this. One angle is that this is like a lot of things that Trump does in general, which is what drives people nuts in large measure, is that this is, who knows if this is really going to happen or not. A lot of times Trump says stuff and does stuff just to encourage action to be taken. And so let's just start with case scenario number one, that it's just a veiled threat and that nothing actually ever happens. That being said,
So he's not really going to turn the car around.
I'm just saying, like, he may or may not. But let's just say that, and on that basis, I think it's great to shake up the market, the industry, and to get people thinking. Because one thing we do know about Trump is that he does execute on a hell of a lot of his promises, and when he does execute, it's pretty brutal. When he executes and how he executes, and if anything, it needs to be brutally beaten around. It's the way Hollywood runs, in my opinion. But that's one. My next reaction would be, how would this work? Well, I think what it does is it puts the ball in some people's ballparks, which you guys have already started to talk about, and I've gotten a couple of texts as I've been on the show. Gavin Newsom, what is Gavin's response going to be to all this? Because essentially what happened, if we go back and review our news stories related to Hollywood, tariffs, tax incentives, and so forth, is that our man Gavin Newsom, a guy that Paulie and his colleagues in California look up to. See how I came back around the corner, Paulie, and I hit you with that one? Pow, pow. No. A guy like Gavin Newsom has turned his back. He's been a huge hypocrite to Hollywood. On the one hand, he's tried to make it like he's friends of Hollywood, and these Hollywood people have sucked up to him. But in reality, he hasn't done much. And in particularly, just 2 or 3 months ago, he had the opportunity to really push for some major incentives that I thought would have really provided some leadership from an economic base that would have benefited Hollywood actors, benefited people below the line, and made good on some economic promises that might get that region to work again, which, by the way, LA has been devastated. It's been devastated by people that live in LA. I may make a lot of crass jokes about California and LA, but to live in LA in the entertainment industry has been a constant barrage and siege of attack from a tax standpoint, from a homeless standpoint, from an economic opportunity standpoint. It's just been brutal for people. And Gavin had the chance to do something major, and he didn't. He basically did what he usually did. He announced there's going to be a special little tax credit program. The dollar amount isn't significant. It sure as hell wasn't even 30% of what Georgia does now. I mean, like if you look at the numbers, it was like 26% of what Georgia does on an annual basis. California was going to do the next 3 years. And so Gavin had a chance to be a real leader here in this, and he didn't. And yet all these Hollywood people are Gavin's best buddies. And I'm very disappointed in Gavin Newsom, because if I would think that, although I think he's a piece of crap and a piece of sack of shit, and I hate the motherfucker for making me want to leave the state, I do think that him and his little besties out of the Hollywood industry could at least team up on saving Hollywood, which he, by the way, has the ability. Because let me tell you about Gavin Newsom. If Gavin Newsom can go to the assembly, which he controls in the Senate, and get tens or hundreds of millions of dollars in order to approve or billions of dollars for homeless encampments, he can sure as hell make some tax credit incentives that'll make Atlanta look like a second-rate movie studio. But he doesn't. So now this puts the ballpark on the ball in the park of Gavin Newsom. Look, Trump's willing to put 100% tariff on the entire planet to bring the movie industry back to America. Gavin, what are you gonna do? What are you gonna do?
That's the point.
And frankly, Paulie's on point. I've heard for years that there are some people that vote Democrat that are leftists. But they've been talking to people in the Trump administration. I've heard that for 2 years. So I'm not surprised that Paulie says that it's not just some conservative actor or two that have been named at some special commission. I heard that from people that I know that work in the industry.
I mean, it's now more than ever. I'm hearing it from it's shocking who I'm hearing it from. Which is good. Good.
In terms of how this goes, let's go to the mechanics, which is what Tom was really asking. That's the third level, right? So I talked about the PR value. I've in my second commentary, I talked about the political value and the political. Now let's talk about the concrete tactical of how this would work. Concrete and tactical, you have two issues. Where is the company based out of legally, and where is the money spent, and how is that going to be tracked? Those are the two things that matter. How are we going to track where the company is based and where the money? And let me give you an example. We have the cruise ship industry where Disney makes a ton of money, but all of these cruise ships, guess what? They're flagged in foreign ports. Because they're flagged in foreign ports and they're foreign entities, they are not subject to the local, state, and federal tax that an American-based company, like if I owned 10 cruise liners and I was in Port Everglades and I had a Florida or a Georgia corporation, I'm coming out of Savannah or whatever, my tax basis is completely different than if I'm a foreign corporation. Because when you're a foreign corporation, you only have to report your U.S. income. And what they do is they say that since these foreigners are embarking on a port that is international, they have left the United States, and now that money that they're making on that cruise ship is no longer U.S. money.
Okay, because that was going to be my next kind of question is how does this compare to something like, say, when Legendary was involved with like China, for instance, so they could get their movies in over in China? Is it something like that, or is it a little more different? Because clearly you can have a company that's based somewhere, but unless you're making the movie in Hollywood, that's what it seems like the incentive is based on more so than where the company is based. But yeah, that was going to be one of my questions too.
Everything about making a movie in Hollywood is subject to the insanity that's California. No one talks about the cost of electricity to make a movie in California. The cost of permits to try to resize a studio can take a decade to do. They have done everything in their power to make Hollywood an impossible place to work. Let me give you an example. I can't remember what state it was in, but one of the Chinese battery companies tried to set up with, I think might have been the insistence of Trump at the first round of creating, one of their businesses and bringing it over from China to the United States. And they gave up because of the regulations are important. But when you get to the point where the regulations exist only to give jobs to bureaucrats, then you're in trouble. And by way of that example, so they gave up after trying to build a big plant after 3 years. Hungary, I just found out, BYD, which is the biggest, now the biggest Chinese electric car company in the world, who also makes the batteries, I believe, for Tesla. They started building a plant in Hungary in the beginning of 2024. They will have enough of it finished by the end of 2025 to start manufacturing cars. They started it in 2024. They're going to be almost done in 2025. They're going to be manufacturing 200,000 cars a year in Hungary. And so, okay, what kind of arm twisting is going on and what kind of regulations are they not following? But on the other hand, we're dealing in the modern world and you can't pollute the world anymore the way they used to in the past. It does no one any good to not be
unless you're in China, then you can totally do that and worse. But in Europe, you can't do that.
No, Europe is the same problem as the United States. As the United States touts itself as being more open than Europe, it's actually not the case.
Exactly. I'm just talking about the pollution in particular. Like you have so many restrictions in both the US and in Europe, some of which are good. China could do whatever the hell you want. Screw the environment. That's the only point I was making.
Right, but they've picked Hungary because of space and tax reasons and everything else. And
absolutely.
And America's choking itself. And some of these tariffs, unfortunately, are protecting inefficiency and the lack of investment in their own businesses.
Yeah,
America has the lowest per capita tariffs assessed to foreign countries of any country.
I'm not talking about that.
No, but you also brought up a good point earlier, Paul, is that
you're right,
this isn't like any other typical industry being tariffed. Like, you don't have specific. Exactly. Like it's not a tactile thing to where it's like,
No.
and not only that, I mean, there's other people bringing up other things. Well, what about piracy? What about, the fact that films are distributed digitally and stuff like that anymore? And it's like, yeah, but this has more to do with the production of and the making
put it
of.
this way, these tariffs might actually and probably will affect foreign film manufacturing. But as Mikey said, unless Newsom gets his act together and fixes California, not just the incentives for doing movies in Hollywood, no one's going to be making movies in Hollywood. It's all going to be in Georgia.
Like,
Well, and I agree with
100%. Let me say one more thing, Tom, real quick.
Sure.
Is at a macro level, I think what Paulie and Paul have been saying in their comments these last few minutes is really important at a macro level, because here's why. The industry that fuels Northern California is tech. And what do we know about how California has been run and what it's done to the tech industry? Tech industries have left.
Mm-hmm.
Prior to the tech industry in Northern California, shockingly, oil and gas was a major industry. And guess what? The two major companies that were in Northern California have either left or in the just announced that the second one is leaving. Chevron.
Wow. Right.
Okay. We go to Southern California. If I ignore San Diego for a minute, which is largely a military-based community in large measure, and the infrastructure around supporting that and a few related other industries like tourism. If I look at Los Angeles in general, if it loses the stronghold on entertainment, which it has been doing, I think the entertainment industry in Southern California, which is one of the 2 or 3 major industries of the state, because tech is not going to tech from large measure, not prior to Tesla, has already left Northern California. There's a bunch of rich venture capitalists there, but all major a lot of the new innovation is not coming from there. It's coming from other places. So if we lose the entertainment industry and Gavin doesn't do what Paulie and Paul are talking about, we're going to have economic devastation where you're just going to have a whole bunch of Mexicans and white folks and people of all kinds of different backgrounds that are going to be it's going to be a consumer class, and there's not going to be, the vibrant energy that once gave California the fuel it needed to become great, because entertainment industry, in large measure, is what made that state in the beginning.
Right. And that's what I was going to get to, is how the reason I think Trump is doing this, and I think you guys are right, I don't think he's necessarily going to do this so much as it is to light a fire under Newsom's ass. I think that's what this is really all about.
He really needs to light a giant fire.
I think that's what this is his basic threat, saying, if you don't change something, this is what I'm going to do. Because you guys are 100% right. Newsom has made it so impossible to make a movie in Hollywood. It is insane. And I think that's what this is all directed towards. Because notice how Trump has done this. He doesn't really give a shit what a state does on its own level, but he does care about the type of businesses that affect the rest of the country, right? Like the car industry, the power, the power infrastructure, this kind of a thing, certain immigration, things like that. That's what he cares about the most. And I think that's what he's doing here. I don't really think he's going to implement anything right away, but just like the other tariffs, I think that he was doing this just to get people to pay attention, especially Newsom, to wake up and go, okay, I have to fucking change what I'm doing or this is going to happen. And I think he means it. I do think he means the threat, but I think it's more or less a threat at this point. He's basically dad in the car going, if you kids don't fucking shut up and sit down, I'm going to turn this car around and we're going to head home right now. It's technically an empty threat, but if you keep fucking around, you don't want to test dad. He might actually turn the car around.
I like that analysis. I didn't hear you when you said that earlier. If you did, that is a great.
There are so many small things Trump could be doing that would be better for the economy. One of them is to, this is going to be weird to say for all the people who want to make sure that the planet does not die from the choking fumes of cars, is that the regulations on cars have been punitive. The car manufacturers actually got their engines, their ICE engines, internal combustion engines, up to 85% efficiency. And then the government put regulations on, and I won't get into the details because my son's a mechanic and he can tell you the details, is trying to squeeze another 5%, has created and if you know what's happening with cars, this extra 5 or 10% they've tried to squeeze out of the car industry has created a litany of unreliable engines. Cars are lousier now because the government just couldn't accept the fact that technology could not take. It couldn't be, they couldn't take the tech. They were demanding more technological advance, but as in every single case, you get past the point of no return, and you now have the worst of all worlds. So they need to take DEF out of diesel cars and trucks are breaking down constantly on their cross-country trips because of these stupid regulations that they've put on, and the cars are polluting more. They're actually doing worse. They're inefficient. They're dying. And that's, again, I don't want to get into the details of it, but there's other things that Trump would be concentrating on.
Moral of the story, do not buy a new car. Buy a car that's 10 years old, because they were better then.
Correct.
Yeah, because that's like the thing. With technical innovation, you get to a certain point. And with cars, with our technology and paradigm, we came as far as it was possible to come about 10 years old, and now we're in a state of decline due to regulation.
Yeah, I mean, look at the BMWs with the plastic thermostats that are, in the middle of the cylinders. They're blowing up constantly. So we had a really good, nice spot where engines were efficient, reliable, and the governments just could not leave well enough alone because nobody there really understands what this technology is.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I have a 10-year-old car, and I do not want a new one until I can get a Tesla Cybertruck, but I want it to run on diesel. And until it does, I'm not getting one.
So anyways, this is an interesting thing. We'll see how it pans out. I mean, Trump was already responsible for the loss of the Conservative Party in Canada, but,
Wah.
Yeah, well...
Wah.
Are you crying, or are you asking
on Canadians' own heads be it, I think. But as a Norwegian, I'm no one to speak.
Wah.
Well, and I don't disagree with you, Paul, that there probably isn't many a thing that Trump couldn't be worried about before this, and I'm sure there are things that he is. I think, like I said, I think that he's just throwing this out there as
it's a show trial. It's nice. It's
kind of a thing that's just to kind of poke Newsom a bit, and he is addressing this stuff. And what I like about it is he's actually saying the thing that we have been saying for years that nobody else will acknowledge, right? That big fat pink elephant that's been sitting in the middle of the goddamn room all this time, that we're going, but there's a pink elephant here, and everybody else is going, yeah, but COVID and woke and this and that and the other. And it's like, no. This right here, this pink elephant in the middle of the room, we need to address this thing right here. And that's finally, we got somebody else besides us saying it. And I get it, it's Trump. It's not going to mean so much to a lot of people, but that's where I'm encouraged by Paulie, what Paulie's been saying, and that is behind the scenes, there are a lot of people who are going, please save us, Trump. And we knew this. We reported on this when there was that right after Trump won, and there was that big meeting at Mar-a-Lago where, Bob Iger was there and Bezos and all these other people that were rubbing shoulders with him. And we're like, and a lot of other people are like, what? Yeah, because they know where they're at right now. This industry is fucked.
And Georgia and New Mexico love this. This isn't helping Hollywood.
No.
Georgia they're going, wow, this is fantastic.
You mean California, Los Angeles. It's helping Hollywood.
It's not helping California. Yeah, I guess it helps Hollywood a little bit, but Hollywood's in California. Oh, I see what you mean. Hollywood is a business that doesn't care where they do their business. Is that what you mean?
Exactly.
Yeah, absolutely. They don't give a shit.
I agree with you, Paulie.
And all my comments are directed about the people who live and work in the greater Los Angeles area. That's why I'm hot. I mean, it's where I was born. It's where I had an office for a number of years. And even though I give California and Southern California in particular a lot of shit, most of it is due to the resentment and anger I feel for watching California be mismanaged into oblivion.
The people there are.
In other words, it comes from a place of love. It's tough love.
The people there are great.
I'm gonna head out, but I'll see you guys in a few minutes.
Where are you going?
Yes, thank you.
Your live show.
Let's go into history. Yeah.
Oh, live show. Good.
Thanks for
Love
joining
you
us,
guys.
Paulie.
Have a great one. Peace.
All right. So with that, was there anything else we had to say before we wrap up the super chats?
We also have to say bye to Chato that has to be leaving. Do we have any super chats for him?
I'd have to specifically look a little bit closer.
Oh, we have 132 flavors of Weiser says for $5. Can confirm car parts have gotten worse. They wear down easier and are replaced more frequently. I saw signs of it right before I left the industry.
Yeah,
So, yeah,
I mean,
figured that one was,
I don't think people really understand, unless you're a mechanic, how well everything was working about 10 years ago, before bureaucrats decided to turn the screws just a little bit more, and the car manufacturers really tried their best to bring it up to those standards, but in the process they've made less efficient engines more efficient engines that break more often. So it's it just wasn't really worth it. And the stories about diesel trucks, I could tell you, it would be fascinating to your readers, to your watchers.
It actually may be, but something else fascinating is that our very good friend Elijah Snow says for $4.99, Paul is right. This is about making Gavin own the destruction of Hollywood.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and I was agreeing with you, Paul. Like, I think that's what this is really. I don't think he's going to do anything right away. I think it's more so just a veiled threat to kind of get Newsom to make the first move, basically.
Well, what was it? Bill Maher said it's taken 10 years to get approval to get his solar panels on.
Oh, God, yeah.
Yeah. And Elijah...
You can't run things that way.
And Elijah Snow also says both Mike and Paul are right about this. Absolutely, Elijah. Many wise thoughts on the panel today.
Yeah, we had some great insight today on this. Thanks, guys.
Yeah. Pilgrim Media also says, I'm so proud of Mike. He's the man. And I completely concur. Mike is awesome. He is the man. And Dark Hero fan says, Ozempic Iron Man. And I resent that. He needs no such thing. Mexican Iron Man's motivation and drive comes from within. And he's an example.
Can I just say, if you're buying Ozempic, you're actually helping those filthy Dutch.
Well, there was a few for Paulie here, but
Dutch company.
Yeah, thanks for the comment. No, I did. I was offered all the drugs to assist with my weight loss when I was at 304 pounds, and I refused them all. And
I'm glad you did.
I was on 2 insulin shots a day and heart meds and all that, and I'm completely diabetic free. In fact, my A1C last time I got it rated was 4.68 when it was 9.3.
Wow,
man, that's a change right there.
Wow.
We did have a few more for Paulie here, but he had to leave us, sadly.
I'll take him. I'm the Mexican on the panel.
But Paul has to leave us, so we'll let him plug his business, and then we'll get back to the super chats here.
I'm going to be on the enemy panel versus at 4 because they want to take me apart for actually liking Thunderbolts.
Where can people find that?
For what?
The enemy panel.
The enemy panel versus Chris Gore and Al.
Okay. Yeah.
And I just earlier today released an appalling news item, which I won't describe, but just the insanity never ends. And as long as it never ends, you'll find it on appalling news.
Indeed.
Anyways, thanks for having me. As always, you guys are great. Nice to see you, Mikey. It was good. And
I love seeing you, but but I just want you to know that I'm booking Tom Connors to take your vacation slot this time.
Yeah.
Since they're not coming to visit, I'm booking Tom Connors to come in June or July for vacay.
I think that's great. We're unfortunately, as I told you, we're going to Hungary instead. So you're not Kivanok.
Yeah, coming to the old country.
Yes, again.
Take care.
Bye, everyone.
Take care.
Pilgrim Media says, I don't want to say this, but Mission Impossible will tank. Yeah, I have a feeling it's not going to do so well. STR Red Wolf sends in 5 and says Disney will shift more 360-degree screening with stock footage back in the pandemic era to avoid tariffs, and other will adopt it. Yeah, I could see that's just it. There's no real reason for them to shoot in most cases outside of the US. It's just tax reasons. Dark
can
Hierophant
always
says
find reasons around it. Yeah.
yeah. Dark Hierophant says this will help newer sound stages like in Vegas. Yes, there's a bunch of them opening up. So yeah. Klekioki says, so is Trump's 3-man squad no longer a thing anymore? As far as I know, they still are. If you're talking about Stallone, Voight, and
from Voight,
Gibson.
which I did not know. One more time, I did not know this, but this came from John Voight apparently. So that means that this 3-man squad, meaning Voight, Stallone, and Gibson, absolutely are a thing since this came from there.
I wouldn't be surprised if part of this isn't brought on by Stallone leaving Hollywood as well. So
yeah. So yeah, no, I think they absolutely are a thing.
Yeah, because that was a big deal when he left. So Mark Daly says, as an Irish American, this whole idea of using national pride as an excuse for heavy drinking is cultural appropriation of St. Paddy's Day. I can attest to this. Yes. They stole it from us. Mark Daly then says, just kidding, Mike and Paulie. You know, I love you both. I want to do a shot with both of you. Please translate my favorite toast to wives and sweethearts. May they never meet. Well, I don't think Paulie drinks anymore, but Mike, you'll have a drink for both of them.
You can do a toast with Mike and offer a high five for Paulie. That'll be good.
Mark Daly then says, Paulie, hat tip for Gringo de Mayo, right up there with Wokoso. Well done, amigo. Hopefully he saw that, but he's live now, so you can jump over there and let him know that.
Yeah, head on over to the Latinos land. Tell him we sent
STR Red Wolf sends in 5 and says, the thing in California is that as of last I heard, new taxes have to be approved by the population. I think they're having budget issues lately. Well, they got to learn how to make movies for less, that's for sure. Then 6 sends in 10 and says, peach farts equal fire in California.
All right. Yeah, I was curious about the arithmetic there, but yeah, there we go. Peach farts.
Wow, I think she actually means emissions, but
yeah,
gas emissions.
Same difference.
Then Kitty Bear sends in a super sticker. Thank you for that. We appreciate that. And then Robert sends in 2 and says, Mike, you watch my film One Step Ahead yet? I think Mike just
We'll get back to that when Mike returns.
Hopefully he'll be right back. And I think we might have had something on the Rumble side. Let me look here.
Yeah, check that.
Yes, we did. Mama Hutch sends in a Rumble rant for $1 and says, I enjoy listening to Midnight's Edge in the morning more than watching movies. Well, that I can understand nowadays. That I can totally see.
Yeah.
So, yeah. I mean, even when I watched some older films that I thought were crap back in the day, it's like, God, this is a lot better than some of the newer stuff.
Well, I think that's why many people responded so well to Thunderbolts. I mean, when you compare it to most other movies coming out these days, it's not so bad. It's when you compare it to the best of Marvel that you see how weak it really is.
Or Revenge of the Sith doing as well as a brand new movie last weekend.
Yeah, same thing. I mean, it was a bad movie when it came out, but better than most of the drivel coming out right now.
Right. Well,
so that's that.
Is Mikey back yet? I don't think he is. There was, I guess, one other quick story I guess we can cover while we're waiting for Mikey to get back, because this was just driving me nuts online. I was hoping Script was still here to comment on this too, because I want your reaction to this, because of course the Snyder Bros are running with this like it's some big, huge thing. But we've reported on this a lot. So I'm curious what your take is, Andre. So Ben Affleck was asked this, I guess, on a red carpet thing for The Accountant too.
Get back to Batman.
Hey, anything's possible. Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. So do you need to see it again, or have you got enough?
Yeah, no, I got it. And for those that are only listening,
Whoops, sorry.
For those who are only listening, what we are witnessing is Ben Affleck on the run on the red carpet, and he clearly has to be somewhere else when a reporter is asking him, any chance you might be Batman again? And he dismisses her completely with anything is possible. And that, of course, is the Hollywood answer for no, which is never shut the door on anything completely. And also, it's a bigger headline that you may not necessarily want the moment that you categorically deny something. So this means nothing. It doesn't mean that he's back or anything like that. And anyone that thinks so is really reaching at straws. I mean, I've seen some people say that I hope that James Gunn fails because then they'll restore the Snyderverse. No, they won't. They'll just reboot in a different direction altogether. So, no, the only way that this happens is if James Gunn, for some reason, decides that, let's bring Affleck back for some cameo or something like that. That's the only way that's going to happen. And that's extremely unlikely as is. Is it completely outside the realm of possibility? No, but I wouldn't put money on it, to put it that way.
Yeah, that's kind of what I got. The way, like, even when she's asking, I don't even think he heard the question because he's clearly distracted by something else.
He's hungover.
Yeah. Anyway, I just wanted we were doing that to kill some time before because you had to go take a poop.
No, I had to take a slime call. Sorry.
I'm just kidding on you. Because they're speculating in the chat that you had to go poo. Robert sends it too and says, Mike, you watch my film One Step Ahead yet? Robert
shit. I was supposed to watch that 3 months ago. Hold on.
Mikey's been busy with taxes, so
yeah, hold on though. But now I remember.
Yeah, you can't send stuff like that at the beginning of tax season. You have to send that at the end of tax season.
Wait a minute. Hold on.
There's a small window you have. I've learned with Mikey.
Hold on. Where is that? I had that
He'll
link
find
saved.
Yeah, it's kind of like.
Hey, can you put it in the chat one more time so I don't have to hunt? I saved it somewhere in my. Hold on.
I don't know if he can put it in the chat or not, but he might be able to
DM
it to
because
you.
obviously you have it on your home computer, but you're on the travel
Yeah, I'm
one
not
right
on my
now,
laptop.
so, yeah.
I put it as a save. But you know what? DM me. Who was that? Robert that sent me that? Hold on. Who did that?
Fucking Proton.
Yes, it was Robert. Yes.
All right. Send me the DM on Twitter so I can watch it. I'm here in the hotel for 4 days till Thursday. So give me something to watch. I'll watch it while I'm here.
I'm jealous. I so want to go to Texas. I'm never.
Oh,
never
you have
been
no
to
idea,
Texas.
Andre. Wait till we get off the StreamYard. I'm on the inside now, so we're gonna.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah, so All right, next one. Peggy Protons. Apparently,
Texas.
Tweety is getting banned in what?
Russianada, Canada. Does he mean Twitter, or does he mean Tweety like as in Tweety Bird?
Yeah, the one who thought he thought I put the cat.
That was funny. I can't believe you just actually did.
I can't believe he actually did that either.
I thought I put it in. I did.
The whole chat. Look, I'm reading out the chat now. There's like 20 people think I went to take a poop. Where'd that come from? I'm just getting caught up on the chat now.
Well, just one person who made the joke, I guess, that everyone got.
No, I do not have a turtle peeking out of my bum. Whoever said that in the chat, I saw that.
Then he wouldn't be here. So everyone chill. So yeah,
right. And it'd be like all stinky, smelly down there, right there. See? Like,
yeah. No, like just look at what a clean, fashionable man you have right there. So get those dirty thoughts out right now. This is a ladies' man, which I can attest to, by the way.
I'm assuming he means Twitter.
Oh, Andre, you have no idea. My my holdings have diversified in the region. You have no idea next time you come for a visit.
Your holdings. We're not talking about the ladies.
I'm looking forward to it.
I'm gonna
Look at him go.
Be my guinea pig. I told Tom when he comes to visit, I'm gonna whore him out.
Oh, I hope so.
Oh yes, yeah. You're gonna be like midnight sage in the morning. What? When? Why? Yep.
Yeah, I'll be awesome.
Here's some breaking news.
Everyone,
Tom can't do the live chat today because the girl that we brought home last night still on top of him.
Yeah,
okay, we got some.
That falls into the valid excuse territory. So yeah, it's all good.
We got some celebrities named here in this title that I wonder if they should be a little worried. Diddy trial begins as potential jurors asked if they are familiar with Michael B. Jordan, Kanye West, Kid Cudi, Mike Myers, and more celebrities.
Oh wow! Oh shit!
What the? When did this get released?
That's what Michael B. Jordan just said right now. Oh shit! Yeah, because he's in trouble.
This just got released here a little bit ago. Six just sent it to me.
Yeah, I'm curious about the more celebrities. Let's see the entire list of people that did the nasty with Justin Bieber.
Allegedly. After which he clearly was never the same again. Never quite walked. Oh shit! Okay, so this is juicy. Holy shit! Honestly, Andre, can you read this quick because you have a better reading.
Well, yeah, but I'm looking at the microscopic laptop.
I was going to give you the link here. Hang on. Here.
In the private chat, I'll do it.
I'll start it, but holy shit. Okay, so jury selection has begun for the sex trafficking trial beginning Monday morning. 150 potential jurors were asked to fill out a questionnaire engaged to their knowledge of Combs. their views on law enforcement, whether they have experienced any sexual assault, and more. They're also given a list of 190 celebrities and public figures.
Holy shit.
And asked to indicate...
yeah, okay, got it right here. Prosecutors believe that Kid Cudi, for one, is the victim of a car bombing committed by Coombs in 2011. During that time, the Pursuit of Happiness rapper was romantically involved with Coombs' longtime ex-girlfriend, Cassandra Ventura, the star witness of the federal trial. Other names listed include Destiny's Child singer Michelle Williams, actor Lauren London, singer Dawn Richard, singer-producer Dallas Austin, and many of Coombs' family members. A surprising number of potential jurors indicated that they were not familiar with any of the names. And to be fair, I wasn't familiar with a single one of those I just said either. So, yeah. And then jumping forward a bit, Coombs is facing 5 counts, including 1 for racketeering, 2 for sex trafficking, and 2 for transportation to engage in prostitution. If he is convicted on any or all counts, Coombs could spend the rest of his life in prison. I'm seeing, yeah, there's no more names here, but holy shit, that's a long list. It's like 150 names and stuff. Damn, and
I'm sure some of these people... Yeah, I was going to say, sir, some of these people are alleged victims. Some of them are probably people that he tried to blackmail. Others make me wonder, who does he have videotapes of and what?
Yeah, and will they leak to the public? Because that would be a hoot. Because, I mean, this is just like the Epstein thing. Only difference is that with celebrities, which makes it all the more juicy. And less likely that people are going to suddenly be in car crashes and then end up, offing themselves after swearing up and down like that they would never do any such thing, like this Virginia of like a couple of weeks back.
Yeah, this is as big or potentially bigger than Epstein in some ways.
It's
how
obviously
they're implicated. Yeah.
I like how the fact by having the jury selection interview questionnaire have all these names on it, that's a way better and bigger interesting list than some of these obscure politicians and power brokers did.
How fun would it be if Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds turn up to be on this list? It's within the realm of possibility.
I love it because I just think he's an insufferable motherfucking guy. I can't stand him.
I hope that he's able to get another Deadpool in the can first.
I did like him in Green Lantern.
Yeah, well, there's that.
Oh Lord.
Yeah, I mean, I liked how he took the piss out of the Green Lantern costume.
I love Green Lantern. I like that movie. I've seen the movie like 100 times. I like Green Lantern.
Yeah,
and Packing Proton. Go ahead.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, and Packing Protons clarifies that. Yep, Canada banning Twitter. Sent you a DM. So yeah, so not the little birdie who thought he put the cat, but okay, well.
So I guess it's coming from according to this, Prime Minister Mark Carney wants to ban Twitter.
I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised.
I'm not surprised, but I don't know if it'll actually make it happen.
They've been talking about that in Europe too, in the more fascistically inclined places. So keep in mind, in France, Rumble legit is banned.
That's true. There is a couple of countries that Rumble isn't even in. You're right.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that this is not going to happen, but I just see it as unlikely. But that doesn't mean they won't try.
Yeah, that's why you need Surfshark.
This is true.
Yeah.
And you can get it by using the code Midnight and save.
It's something we're very, very happy to be sponsored by, and a service that you need in troubling times like this. Absolutely. But with that, I do believe that people need to head on over to Paulie and the Latino Slant and let them know that we all sent you.
That's right. And Mikey, thank you so much for being able to pop in. I know it's you're a busy man, so it's always a pleasure to get to hang out with you.
And it's also busy season, so we appreciate it all the more when you have time to hop in from the hotel.
I rushed over here when I saw the topic. But the agent let me go. So I was just like, well, there must be divine God. But thanks, everybody. Thanks for all your nice compliments in the chat. Andre, Tom, thank you for saying nice things about me.
Maybe they're a viewer, Mike. Maybe they're like, oh, shit, that's I need to let Mike get on the show. I can worry about my other shit later.
Good God, no. No, no.
The IRS can wait.
The only time I ever found someone that knew that was already online was, well, I actually told you about that. Never mind. I realized I already told you.
Yeah, you're going to get yourself into some big fucking trouble right now, sir.
I thought you looked like that Mexican Iron Man, she said.
Yeah. Okay, you know what? I'm going to spill the beans now. This is one for Mikey. Every dang time he's ever said, I'm not a YouTuber. You know what I drop on him that shuts him up every time? You're the only one I know who's ever gotten laid because you were on YouTube. So I think that de facto makes you a legal YouTuber.
Yeah, good times. And with that, if we are caught up on everything, it's time for you all to head on over to Polly and the Latinos land to thank Mike for showing up yet again, and all our other panelists. Thank all of you guys for watching. Be sure to check back Midnight's Edge after dark tomorrow. I believe the ladies at Toxic Femme are on started summer vacation.
I think we're gonna have some more, but we are taking off tonight because sadly Nina is sick.
Oh, there you go. Yeah.
But we're gonna do, I think, a couple more up through Memorial Day weekend, and then we're gonna reconvene during the middle of the summer to talk Superman and whatnot, unless anything real important pops off. But otherwise, yeah.
It's been business,
and we will be filling in the time slot with other things we haven't decided yet. So just stay tuned.
We'll figure something out. And of course, there'll be more regular video drops. So just stay tuned and check out the videos that we dropped already, because Lord knows you probably didn't get notified about them. So check out our most recent videos. And with that, Mike, unless you have something you want to plug.
No, ma'am. Or no, sir. No, sir. No, ma'am.
Well, then it's time to bring on the soggy marsupials.
Let's do it.
Koalas in the rain, koalas in the rain. No fucks given, koalas